Chapter 1. The full moon bled silver across the Cascade Mountains when the wolves came for me. I, Liora Kane, had one rule: never hike after dark. Tonight, I broke it for the shot of a lifetime. The legendary ghost wolf rumored to roam these peaks. My camera clicked once, twice, then the world exploded. 3 monstrous wolves burst from the trees, eyes glowing blood red, foam dripping from their jaws. Feral. The curse everyone whispered about had found me. I ran. Branches slashed my face. My boot caught a root, and I slammed into the dirt. The biggest feral lunged, jaws wide enough to crush my skull. A 4th wolf exploded from the shadows like living night. Silver-black fur, twice the size of the others, moving like death itself. He tore through the ferals with a roar that shook the mountain. Blood sprayed. Bones snapped. Then silence. The giant wolf turned. Golden eyes locked on mine. I couldn't breathe. He stepped forward, and the air shimmered. Fur melted into skin. Paws became bare feet. A towering man stood naked before me, chest heaving, blood streaked across abs carved from stone. Silver-black hair fell to his shoulders. His jaw was sharp enough to cut glass, and those golden eyes burned with something primal. "You shouldn't have sung to him," he growled, voice low and velvet rough. "Now you belong to me." I tried to scramble back. He moved faster than thought, one massive hand clamping gently around my waist, lifting me as if I weighed nothing. "My name is Draven Voss," he said against my ear, breath hot. "Alpha of the Eclipse Pack. And you, little human, you just saved my brother from the feral curse. That makes you the moon singer we've waited 1,000 years for." I opened my mouth to scream. His lips brushed my neck, and white-hot fire exploded through my veins as his fangs sank in. The marking was done before I could fight. Pain and sparks crashed together. The bond snapped into place like a chain made of lightning. "Welcome home, mate," he whispered as my vision faded. "You're never leaving these mountains again." My eyes snapped open to darkness that smelled like pine smoke and something wilder, pure predator. The pain in my neck hit first, a burning throb right where his fangs had sunk in, pulsing in time with my heartbeat like a second, furious heart. I tried to sit up and couldn't. Cold iron bit into my wrists. Chains. Thick, heavy chains bolted to a massive 4-poster bed carved from black wood. I was in a room that looked like a king's lair carved into the side of a mountain. Stone walls veined with silver quartz, a fireplace roaring with blue flames that gave no heat, and floor-to-ceiling windows showing nothing but endless snow-capped peaks under a sky still stained with the blood-red moon. My camera bag lay neatly on a velvet chair across the room, mocking me. This wasn't a dream. The marking was real. The giant silver-black wolf was real. And the man Draven Voss had stolen me. I yanked the chains. They rattled but didn't give. Panic clawed up my throat. "Hello." My voice cracked. "Let me go." The door opened without a sound. He filled the frame like night itself had taken human shape. 6'7" of pure muscle wrapped in black tactical pants and nothing else. Silver-black hair still damp from somewhere. Golden eyes glowing faintly in the firelight. Fresh claw marks scarred his left shoulder, marks that hadn't been there when he bit me. "You're awake," he said, voice low and rough like gravel wrapped in velvet. He stepped inside, and the door sealed behind him with a soft click that sounded final. Good. The bond settles faster when you're conscious. I pressed my back against the headboard, chains clinking. "You kidnapped me. You bit me. Take these off right now, or I swear I'll." "You'll what, moon singer?" He crossed the room in 3 strides and sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress dipped under his weight. Heat rolled off him in waves. Scream? Run? The last human who tried to run from this den made it exactly 6 steps before the bond pain dropped her. My hand flew to my neck. The bite mark was hot, raised, and when my fingers brushed it, a spark of electricity shot straight down my spine. My breath hitched. Not pain this time, something worse. Something that felt like want. Draven watched me with those impossible golden eyes. "You feel it already. The bond. It's ancient. It doesn't ask permission." "I don't care what it is," I snapped, yanking the chains again. "I have a life. A job. People who will look for me. My parents think I'm just on a photography trip." They'll think you vanished, he said quietly. No cruelty in it. Just a fact. The mountains swallow people every year. And right now the eclipse pack is dying. Every full moon, more of my wolves turn feral. They lose their minds, attack anything that moves, including each other. You sang one note in the forest, and my brother came back from the edge. One note, Liora Kane. You're the only living moon singer in 1,000 years. I stared at him. How do you know my name? I know everything about you, he answered, reaching out. His fingers hovered an inch from my cheek, then dropped. The moment the bond snapped into place, your entire life poured into my head. 18 years old. Wildlife photographer. Orphaned at 14. Terrified of being trapped. And you have the voice that can break the feral curse before it wipes out my entire bloodline. My heart hammered so hard I could feel it in the bite mark. So you chain me up and expect me to just save your pack? Like some kind of magical slave? No, his jaw tightened. I expect you to stay alive long enough for me to fix this. The scrolls say the moon singer always dies after the final song. I won't let that happen. Not to you. He stood suddenly and unlocked the chain on my right wrist with a key that looked older than the mountains themselves. The moment the iron fell away, the bond flared white-hot. My knees buckled the second I tried to stand. Pain blinding, soul-deep pain, slammed through my chest like someone had ripped my heart in half. I gasped and crumpled forward. Draven caught me before I hit the stone floor. His arms were steel and fire. The second his skin touched mine, the agony eased into sparks. Electric, dizzying sparks that made my head spin for an entirely different reason. See, he murmured against my hair, voice gentler than it had any right to be. The bond doesn't like separation. Not even 6 feet. You run, you hurt. You stay, you heal. Those are the only 2 choices I can give you right now. I shoved at his chest. It was like pushing a mountain. I hate you. You will, he said simply. For a while. Then you won't. He lifted me back onto the bed as if I weighed nothing and relocked the chain. Looser this time, long enough to reach the window but not the door. He turned to leave, pausing at the threshold. Rest, Liora. Tomorrow, I'll show you what the curse really looks like. And tomorrow night, you sing for them again. Whether you want to or not. The door closed. I curled into a ball, fingers pressed to the burning mark on my neck, and whispered the only thing I could think of. I'm getting out of here. But even as I said it, the bond hummed warm and alive in my veins, whispering back a single word that terrified me more than the chains ever could. Liar. Chapter 2. The chains were gone when I woke again, but the feeling of them still bit into my wrists like ghosts. Pale morning light sliced through the tall windows, turning the silver quartz in the walls into frozen lightning. My neck throbbed in perfect rhythm with my heartbeat, and every pulse sent a whisper through my veins. He's close. He's watching. You're his. I hated how right it felt. The door opened before I could even sit up. Draven filled the frame again, dressed this time in a black tactical shirt that stretched across shoulders broad enough to block the entire doorway. His golden eyes scanned me once, quick, clinical, then softened by a fraction. Pain level? He asked, voice still rough from sleep or something darker. None of your business, I snapped, swinging my legs off the bed. The second my bare feet touched the cold stone, the bond flared as a live wire yanked tight. My knees buckled. A low, animal sound tore out of my throat before I could stop it. Draven was across the room in a heartbeat, one massive arm sliding around my waist to keep me upright. The moment his skin touched mine, the agony melted into sparks. Bright electric, addictive sparks that raced down my spine and pooled low in my stomach. I gasped and shoved at his chest. It was like shoving a cliff face. Don't touch me, I hissed. You're the one falling, he said quietly. His breath brushed my hair. The bond doesn't care what you want yet. It only cares that you're alive. He didn't let go. Instead, he steered me toward the door, his hand firm at the small of my back. Every step sent another ripple of those cursed sparks through me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to lean in. Both feelings terrified me. We walked down a long stone corridor lit by flickering blue torches that never burned out. The air grew colder, heavier, carrying the copper tang of blood and the wet dog stench of something wild and wrong. At the end of the hall, iron-barred doors loomed like the gates of hell. Draven stopped in front of the largest one. This is what the Pharaoh curse looks like when it wins. He pushed the door open. The howl that slammed into me was nothing human. It was pure madness given voice, raw, broken, endless. Inside a cavernous chamber lit by the same blue fire, dozens of massive wolves paced behind silver-reinforced bars. Their eyes glowed blood-red. Foam dripped from jaws that snapped at nothing. Some clawed at their own flanks, leaving deep gashes that healed almost instantly, only to be torn open again. One wolf, smaller, black-furred, threw itself against the bars so hard the metal screamed. My stomach lurched. These are your people? Draven's jaw tightened until the muscle jumped. My brother was one of them until you sang. 23 wolves left. Every full moon, we lose more. They forget who they are. They forget the pack. They forget me. The black wolf slammed into the bars again, red eyes locking on me. It let out a howl that felt like knives dragging across my soul. Without thinking, I opened my mouth. A single note slipped out. Soft, trembling, the same note I'd hummed while taking that ghost wolf photo the night before. It wasn't even a song. Just one pure silver sound. The effect was immediate. Every feral wolf froze mid-motion. The howling stopped. The black one dropped to its belly, red eyes flickering, then slowly bleeding back to warm amber. Tails lowered. Ears twitched forward. One by one they lay down, chests still heaving but no longer tearing at themselves. Silence fell like a blessing. I felt the power leave me in a rush and swayed. Draven's arm tightened around my waist instantly. Sparks exploded where we touched, brighter this time, almost painful in their sweetness. My breath caught. For one terrifying second, I wanted to turn into his chest and never leave. You see, he whispered, voice rough with something like awe. One note, Liora. You just gave them back their minds for a few hours. The moon singer isn't a legend anymore. She's standing right here. I jerked away from his touch even though the bond screamed at the distance. The pain returned instantly, a dull knife twisting behind my ribs, but I welcomed it. Pain was honest. The sparks were a lie. I didn't ask for this, I said, voice shaking. I was taking pictures. I was going home to edit them and drink cheap wine, and forget the world for one night. Now I'm a battery for your dying pack. Draven's golden eyes darkened. You're more than that. You're the only thing standing between us and extinction. He stepped closer again, towering over me, but his voice dropped to something almost gentle. I know you hate me. I know you want to run. But every time you do, the bond will tear you apart. And every time you stay, you save lives. The black wolf, his brother, lifted its head and let out a soft, almost grateful whine. I looked at Draven. Really looked. There were shadows under his eyes that no alpha should carry. Silver threads in his hair that hadn't been there yesterday. He was breaking too, carrying an entire pack on his back while the curse ate them alive. For one stupid second my heart twisted. Then I remembered the chains. The bite. The way he'd said you belong to me like it was already decided. I still hate you, I whispered. Draven's mouth curved into the smallest, saddest smile I'd ever seen. Good. Hate keeps you fighting. Fighting keeps you alive. He brushed a strand of hair from my face. Gentle, careful, and the sparks flared so bright I saw stars. Tonight we try 2 notes. Tomorrow 3. And one day soon, you'll sing the final song that ends this curse forever. He turned toward the door then paused. Try to run again, and I'll carry you back every single time. But I'd rather you walk beside me, Liora Kane. Even if you're cursing my name the whole way. The door sealed behind him with a sound like fate locking into place. I sank to the cold stone floor outside the cages, listening to the soft breathing of wolves who were calm only because of me. The bite mark on my neck burned like a brand. And somewhere deep inside my chest, the bond whispered again. Louder this time, warmer, more dangerous than any feral howl. Stay. Chapter 3. The stone floor outside the cages was ice against my skin, but it was nothing compared to the fire still crackling under the fresh mark on my neck. I stayed there long after Draven left, knees drawn to my chest, listening to the soft breathing of wolves who were only calm because of me. The moon singer. Their savior. Their battery. I hated the word. I hated how it already felt like a cage tighter than the chains. Hours must have passed. The blue torches never dimmed, but my stomach growled loud enough to echo. When the door finally opened again, it wasn't Draven. A tall, lean man with midnight skin and sharp amber eyes stepped in. Draven's beta, I guessed. His name came to me unbidden through the bond like an unwanted gift. Kale. Alpha sent me, he said, voice calm but edged with respect. You need food. And answers. He thought you might listen better if they came from someone who isn't the one who marked you. I laughed, bitter and broken. Smart man. Too bad he's also the one who kidnapped me. Kale didn't smile. He simply offered his hand. The second my fingers brushed his, the bond flared in warning, sharp pain lancing through my ribs like a reminder. Not him. Only Draven. I yanked back with a hiss. See, Kale said quietly. The bond is already possessive. Come. The library is this way. He led me through twisting stone corridors that felt older than time itself. Every step away from Draven sent dull throbs through my chest, but I clenched my teeth and kept walking. Pain was better than surrender. The library was carved deep into the mountain heart. A cavernous room with shelves hewn from living rock, glowing scrolls floating in silver light, and a massive oak table covered in ancient parchment. Draven stood at the far end, back to us, shoulders rigid. He didn't turn when we entered, but I felt him through the bond like a second heartbeat. Steady heavy waiting. Kale cleared his throat. She's here. Draven finally faced us. His golden eyes locked on mine, and the sparks ignited instantly, racing across my skin even from 20 feet away. My knees almost gave out again. He crossed the room in 3 strides and caught my elbow before I could fall. Don't, I whispered, but my body leaned into his touch anyway. Traitor. Sit, he said, voice low. He guided me to a carved chair and placed a plate of roasted meat and fresh bread in front of me, still warm, as if he'd prepared it himself. I wanted to refuse it on principle. My stomach betrayed me, and I ate anyway. While I chewed, Kale unrolled the largest scroll on the table. The parchment was so old it should have crumbled, yet the silver ink still shimmered like starlight. This is the prophecy of the moon singer, Kale said. Written by the first Luna 1,000 years ago when the feral curse first appeared. Draven stood behind me, close enough that his warmth bled into my back. I could feel every breath he took. Kale's finger traced the glowing words. She who sings under the blood moon shall calm the wild heart. She who sings the final verse shall break the curse forever, and pay with her life. The moon singer's song is her gift and her death. The bread turned to ash in my mouth. I stared at the scroll. So I save your pack, and then I die. That's the deal. Draven's hand landed on my shoulder, gentle, but trembling with barely contained fury. Sparks exploded where he touched me, bright and desperate. No, he growled. That is not the deal. The old texts are clear, but they're also incomplete. Every previous moon singer died, because their alpha let them. Because they treated the singer like a weapon instead of a mate. He moved around the table so he could look me dead in the eyes. Those golden irises were burning now, fierce, protective, almost broken. I am not those alphas, he said, voice rough with emotion. I will not let you die, Liora Kane. I will break every law of our kind, burn every scroll, tear apart the moon itself if I have to. You will sing the final song. The curse will end, and you will live. I swear it on my blood, on my pack, on everything I am. The bond surged between us like a living thing. Sparks turning to wildfire, pain twisting into something warmer, deeper, terrifying. My mark throbbed in answer. For one dizzying second, I saw flashes through his eyes. Centuries of watching his wolves die. The weight of being alpha. The terror of losing me before he'd even had me. I jerked back, breaking the connection. You don't get to decide that for me. You kidnapped me. You marked me without asking. And now you're promising to save me from a fate you dragged me into. Draven didn't flinch. Yes. Because the alternative is watching my entire bloodline go feral and tear the world apart, including you. I won't let that happen. Not to them. Not to you. Kale quietly rolled the scroll back up, eyes lowered like he knew he shouldn't be witnessing this. The final song requires the full blood moon in 3 weeks, he said softly. We have time. But every day the curse grows stronger. And every day the bond grows tighter. Draven's gaze never left mine. Stay with me, Liora. Fight me if you must. Hate me if it helps you survive. But stay. Let me protect you the way no alpha has ever protected a moon singer before. I stood on shaky legs. The bond screamed at a distance, pain knifing through my ribs, but I welcomed the burn. It reminded me I was still me. I'll sing for your wolves, I said, voice trembling but clear. I'll learn the songs. I'll do what I have to. But the second the curse is broken, I'm gone. And if you try to stop me, I'll find a way to die anyway, just to spite you. Draven's expression shattered for half a second, raw pain flashing across that stone-carved face, before the alpha mask slammed back into place. 3 weeks, he said quietly. That's all I ask. He turned and left the library without another word, but I felt him through the bond the entire way, aching, determined, and more terrified than any alpha had a right to be. Kale lingered a moment longer. He's never begged for anything in his life, he murmured. Until you. Then he was gone too. I sank back into the chair, staring at the glowing scroll that had just handed me a death sentence wrapped in prophecy. My fingers brushed the mark on my neck, and the sparks answered, soft, almost pleading. 3 weeks. 3 weeks to break the curse. 3 weeks to break free of the alpha who was already breaking every rule to keep me alive. And the scariest part? A tiny, traitorous piece of me wasn't sure I still wanted to run. Chapter 4. Night had fallen like a shroud over the Eclipse Pack's mountain fortress, and the bond mark on my neck burned hotter than the blue flames in the library. 3 weeks. That was all the ancient scrolls had given me. 3 weeks to sing my own death sentence, and save a pack I never asked to join. I couldn't wait that long. The moment the corridors grew quiet and the blue torches dimmed to embers, I made my move. Draven had left me unchained after dinner, arrogant enough to believe the bond would hold me better than iron. He was wrong. I slipped out of the bedroom wearing the same dark hoodie and jeans I'd arrived in. My camera bag was too heavy and too loud, so I left it behind. Survival first. Freedom second. My bare feet were silent on the cold stone as I crept toward the faint draft of pine-scented air I'd noticed earlier. Every step away from Draven's presence sent a dull warning throb through my chest, but I clenched my teeth and kept moving. Pain was honest. Pain reminded me I was still me. I found a side door that opened into a massive underground garage carved straight into the mountain. Rows of black trucks and armored SUVs gleamed under low lights. Keys hung on a hook like an invitation. I grabbed the biggest set, climbed into the largest truck, and twisted the ignition. The engine roared to life. Loud, angry, alive. I floored it. Gravel sprayed as I shot out of the garage, and onto the twisting mountain road. The mansion disappeared in my rearview mirror within seconds. Wind whipped through the open window. For the first 5 glorious minutes, triumph sang in my blood louder than any moon singer note ever could. Then the pain began. It started as pressure behind my ribs. Within a mile, it became a knife. By the second mile, it was a chainsaw tearing through my chest. My hands shook violently on the wheel. The bond wasn't warning me anymore. It was punishing me. Every heartbeat sent white-hot agony ripping through my veins like lightning trying to drag me back. I gasped, vision blurring with tears. The truck swerved wildly. I slammed on the brakes and barely managed to pull onto the narrow shoulder before the world spun. I stumbled out into the freezing night air, collapsing onto the rough asphalt. The pain was unbearable now. It felt like my heart was being physically ripped in half. I curled into a tight ball on the cold ground, fingers clawing at the mark on my neck as if I could tear it off. Tears froze on my cheeks. A low, broken whimper tore from my throat. Through the agony, I heard it, the thunder of massive paws pounding the earth. A silver-black wolf exploded from the tree-line like a shadow-given fury. Draven. He shifted mid-stride, landing on 2 feet and sprinting the last 20 yards completely naked, muscles rippling under moonlight, golden eyes wild with panic. Liora. His voice cracked with raw terror. He dropped to his knees beside me and yanked me into his arms. The instant his bare skin touched mine, the pain shattered into sparks, bright, dizzying, overwhelming relief that stole what little breath I had left. I cried out, half sob, half moan, my body instinctively curling into his chest like it had been waiting for him all along. "You idiot," he growled, but there was no anger, only fear so deep it shook his massive frame. His arms locked around me like iron and fire. "You felt what happens when you run. The bond nearly killed you. It nearly killed me." I could barely speak through the aftershocks. "Better than dying for your pack in 3 weeks. Draven's golden eyes flashed with something fierce and shattered. He pressed his forehead to mine, breathing hard, his silver-black hair falling around us like a curtain. Through the bond, I felt his pain, sharp echoing, mirrored. He'd felt every second of my agony as if it were his own. "You're not dying," he whispered, voice hoarse. "Not for them. Not for anyone. Not while I'm breathing." His hand cupped the back of my head, thumb brushing my mark with heartbreaking gentleness. The sparks flared so bright I saw stars behind my eyelids. 3 weeks. Give me 3 weeks to find another way. Then, if you still want to leave, I'll drive you down the mountain myself. I swear it. I wanted to argue. I wanted to scream that I hated him, that he'd ruined my life, that nothing could make me stay. But as the pain finally ebbed completely in his arms, all I could do was close my eyes and whisper the terrifying truth that scared me more than the bond ever had. "I don't know if I can survive 3 weeks of this, or if I even want to run anymore." Draven's arms tightened around me like a vow. He carried me back to the truck without another word, but I felt the shift in the bond between us. Deeper, heavier, more dangerous than before. The mountain road stretched upward into the darkness, carrying us both back to the prison that was starting to feel like home. Chapter 5. The truck's engine died with a low growl as Draven carried me back through the underground garage like I weighed nothing. My body still hummed from the aftershocks of the bond pain, but every spark where his bare skin touched mine felt sharper now. Hotter, more insistent, like the mountain itself was whispering, "Stay, stay, stay." I didn't fight him this time. Not out loud. My pride was already in pieces on the side of that road. He didn't speak until we were back inside the mansion, the heavy stone door sealing behind us with a sound like a tomb closing. Only then did he set me down in the training hall, a vast circular chamber I'd never seen before. The floor was smooth black obsidian etched with glowing silver runes. Torches of blue fire ringed the walls. In the center stood a single raised platform of moon-white marble. Draven finally released me, but he didn't step away. His golden eyes burned in the flickering light, silver-black hair wild from the wind and the shift. He was still naked from the chase, every carved muscle glistening with sweat and moonlight. I forced my gaze to the runes instead of the way his chest rose and fell with each ragged breath. "Training starts now," he said, voice rough and final. "No more running. No more waiting for the pain to teach you. You will learn to control the moon song before the blood moon forces it out of you." I crossed my arms, trying to ignore how the mark on my neck pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. "I already sang for your wolves. Twice. What more do you want? I want you alive after the final verse." He moved to the edge of the marble platform and gestured for me to step up. "The scrolls only tell half the story. The other half is power. Raw, uncontrolled power. Your voice can calm them, or it can shatter mountains if you don't learn to hold it back. And right now you're a wildfire with no leash." I climbed the steps because the alternative was letting him carry me again, and I wasn't sure my traitorous body could survive another round of those sparks. The marble was warm under my feet, almost alive. Draven joined me on the platform. Close. Too close. The bond flared instantly, electric threads of heat racing from my mark straight down my spine. I sucked in a sharp breath. "Sing," he commanded softly. "One note. The same one that calmed my brother." I opened my mouth to refuse. Instead, the note slipped out, pure silver, trembling. It filled the chamber like liquid starlight. The runes on the floor ignited. Silver fire raced along every line. The blue torches flared brighter. And the bond exploded. Sparks weren't sparks anymore. They were lightning. Every inch of my skin lit up where the invisible thread connected me to him. My knees buckled. Draven caught me before I fell, one arm locking around my waist, the other cradling the back of my neck right over the mark. The contact was devastating. White-hot pleasure crashed through the pain. I gasped against his chest, fingers curling into his bare shoulders without meaning to. His skin was burning. Mine was burning. The bond sang between us like a second voice, deeper, older, hungrier. Draven's breath hitched. His golden eyes were molten now, pupils blown wide. Again, he growled, but his voice cracked. 2 notes this time. I shouldn't have obeyed, but the power was already rising in my throat, pulled out by his nearness. The second note joined the first, higher, stronger, laced with everything I was feeling, rage, fear, and something terrifyingly close to want. The entire hall trembled. Runes flared so bright I had to close my eyes. Draven's arms tightened around me like steel cables. I felt his heart slamming against mine. Felt the way the bond was trying to pull us closer, 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 until there was no space left between a kidnapped human and the alpha who had stolen her. When the notes faded, we were both breathing hard. His forehead rested against mine. Sweat glistened on his skin. My hoodie clung to me like a second layer. I suddenly wanted to tear off. "You're dangerous," he whispered, voice raw. "Not just to the curse. To me." I pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. "Good. Maybe you'll finally let me go." His laugh was dark and broken. "Let you go? After that?" He brushed his thumb across my mark, slow, deliberate, and fresh sparks detonated behind my eyelids. "The bond is teaching you the same thing it's teaching me, Liora. You can run. You can hate me. But you can't escape what we are." I shoved at his chest. He let me go this time, but the absence of his touch hurt worse than the road. The dull throb returned instantly, a reminder that my body had already chosen sides. Draven stepped off the platform. "Tomorrow we do 3 notes. Every day until the blood moon. And every night." His golden eyes flicked to the mark on my neck. "Every night, the bond will try to pull you into my bed. Fight it if you want. But know this, I'm fighting it too. For your sake." He turned and left the hall without looking back. I sank to the marble, chest heaving, skin still tingling with lightning that had nothing to do with the runes. The bond hummed inside me like a living song, one I hadn't written, but one I was already starting to remember the melody of. That night, for the first time, I dreamed of him. Not as my captor. As my mate. Chapter 6. The dream clung to me like smoke when I woke. Draven's golden eyes are inches from mine. His hands are on my waist. The bond singing between us was like a storm I couldn't outrun. I sat up in the massive bed, heart hammering, the mark on my neck glowing faintly in the dark like it remembered every second of last night's training. I hated how much I wanted to feel those sparks again. The blue torches in my room had dimmed to embers, but the mansion was awake. I could hear it. Distant voices, the low rumble of wolves' shifting forms, the metallic clang of training blades somewhere deep in the mountain. Draven had left me alone after the hall, but the bond made sure I never felt truly alone. It tugged at my ribs like an invisible leash, warm and insistent. "He's close. Go find him." I ignored it. I pulled on fresh clothes someone had left folded on the chair, soft black leggings and a long-sleeved tunic that smelled faintly of pine and alpha. My own hoodie was gone, probably burned after the road incident. Another piece of my old life erased. I slipped into the corridor, barefoot again, following the sound of voices toward what I hoped was an exit. The bond throbbed harder with every step, but I pushed through the dull ache. I needed air. I needed to remember I was still Liora Kane, photographer, not some cursed savior. The voices grew louder. I rounded a corner into a wide stone atrium lit by moonlight streaming through a glass dome high above. Dozens of pack members were gathered, tall, powerful wolves in human form, some still half-shifted with claws and glowing eyes. They fell silent the moment they saw me. A tall woman with fiery red hair and ice-blue eyes stepped forward first. Her name burned into my mind through the bond. Celine, one of Draven's top warriors. And from the pure venom in her stare, she hated me on sight. "So this is the Moon Singer," she sneered, voice carrying across the atrium like a whip. "The human who's going to save us all, and then die for it. How noble." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some nodded. Others glared. A few younger wolves actually bared their teeth. I lifted my chin. I didn't ask to be here. Celine laughed, sharp and cruel. None of us asked for the curse either. But we bleed for it. We die for it. And now we're supposed to bow to a fragile little human who can't even shift? Whose voice is the only thing keeping her alive. She moved faster than I could track. 1 second she was 10 feet away. The next her clawed hand was around my throat, slamming me back against the stone wall. Pain exploded across my skull. The bond screamed in protest, but Celine's grip only tightened. You're weak, she hissed, breath hot against my face. You'll break the curse and leave us with nothing. Or worse, you'll die halfway and doom us all. I say we end this now. One less mouth for the alpha to feed. Claws pricked my skin. Blood trickled warm down my neck, mixing with the mark. The bond flared white-hot, not in pain this time, in rage. My vision tunneled. I couldn't breathe. Then the entire atrium shook. A roar ripped through the mountain like thunder-given voice. Draven exploded into the space in wolf form. Silver-black fur bristling, golden eyes blazing with pure alpha fury. He was bigger than I remembered, shoulders rolling with lethal grace as he slammed between us. One massive paw swiped Celine away like she was nothing. She hit the far wall hard enough to crack stone and slid to the floor. Draven shifted mid-motion, landing on 2 feet between the pack and me. Naked, chest heaving, blood from my neck already streaking his hand where he'd touched me. He didn't look at anyone else. Only me. His palm pressed gently over the fresh scratches on my throat, sparks igniting instantly, soothing, protective, possessive. The band sang so loud I felt it in my bones. She is mine, he snarled, voice carrying to every wolf in the atrium. The moon singer. My fated mate. My Luna-to-be. Touch her again, any of you, and I will rip your throat out myself. Pack law be damned. Silence crashed down. Celine pushed to her feet, eyes wide with shock and something like betrayal. Alpha, she's human. She'll die. You know the prophecy. I know the prophecy. Draven cut her off, voice low and lethal. And I know I will rewrite it. She stays. She trains. She lives. Or this pack learns what it means to lose its alpha. He turned his back on them all, scooped me into his arms without asking, and carried me out of the atrium like I was the only thing in the world that mattered. The bond hummed between us the entire way back to my room. Deeper now, threaded with something new. Not just sparks. Not just pain. Loyalty. When he lay me on the bed and pressed a soft cloth to my neck, his golden eyes were raw. I chose you, he whispered. Over blood. Over tradition. Over everything. I should have pushed him away. Instead, my fingers brushed his jaw, just once, and the sparks that answered felt like coming home. Chapter 7. The scratches on my throat had barely stopped bleeding when the blizzard hit. It came without warning. The kind of mountain storm that turns day to night in minutes. One moment Draven was pressing a clean cloth to my neck in my room, golden eyes still burning with the echo of his roar in the atrium. The next, the wind howled against the stone walls like 1,000 feral wolves. Snow slammed sideways against the windows, thick and blinding. The blue torches flickered wildly. Draven's head snapped toward the glass. Training is cancelled. The pass is already closed. I stood on shaky legs, the bond still humming from his touch. Then let me go back to my room. He laughed once, dark, low, exhausted. Your room is on the far side of the mansion. The corridors flood in storms like this. You'd drown before you reached the door. Before I could argue, he grabbed a heavy black pack from the corner, slung it over one shoulder, and caught my wrist. Sparks exploded where his fingers closed around mine. I tried to pull away. He didn't let go. Come, he said. There's a cabin halfway up the ridge. Stocked. Safe. We ride it out there. I had no choice. The bond already ached at the thought of separation, and the storm outside sounded like it wanted to bury the entire mountain. I followed him through hidden passages I'd never seen, down narrow stone stairs that spiraled deep into the rock, then out through a side tunnel that opened directly onto the mountainside. The wind hit us like a wall. Snow stung my face. Draven shifted in one fluid motion. silver-black wolf towering over me, and lowered his massive shoulder so I could climb on. I hesitated only a second before gripping his fur. The bond sang approval the instant I touched him. The ride up the ridge was brutal. Wind screamed. Snow blinded. But Draven moved like the mountain belonged to him. Paws sure even when the path disappeared under white drifts. I pressed my face into his warm neck, breathing in pine and wild alpha, and hated how safe I felt. The cabin appeared like a miracle, small stone and log, half buried in snow but glowing with faint lantern light inside. Draven shifted back the moment we reached the door, naked again, and kicked it open with one bare foot. He pulled me inside and slammed it shut against the storm. Silence. Warmth. The howl of wind muffled to a distant roar. A single lantern burned on a rough wooden table. A stone fireplace roared to life the second Draven tossed a log into it. Magic or pack preparation, I didn't care. 2 thick blankets lay folded on a narrow cot. A small kitchen nook held canned food and a pot of water already steaming. Draven stood in the center of the single room. Water and melted snow dripping from his silver-black hair down the hard lines of his chest. He looked wild, dangerous, and for the first time uncertain. "You're shivering," he said quietly. I was. My clothes were soaked through. The scratches on my throat stung in the sudden heat. But I lifted my chin anyway. "I've fine." "You're not." He crossed the room in 2 strides, grabbed one of the blankets, and wrapped it around my shoulders before I could protest. His fingers brushed my neck, right over the mark, and the fresh claw marks, and the sparks detonated like fireworks. We both froze. The bond surged between us, hotter than the fireplace. My breath caught. His golden eyes darkened to molten amber. Neither of us moved. Snow howled outside. Inside, the only sound was 2 hearts trying to beat in the same rhythm. "I hate what they did to you," he whispered, thumb tracing the edge of the scratch with heartbreaking gentleness. "I hate that I brought you here. I hate that the bond is forcing this on both of us." "Then let me go." I breathed, but my voice cracked. "I can't." His forehead dropped to mine. "Not because of the prophecy. Not because of the pack. Because every time you're hurt, I feel it like my own blood. Because when you sang in the training hall, I felt alive for the first time in years. Because you're the only thing in this cursed world that makes the weight of being alpha feel bearable." My hands rose without permission and rested against his bare chest. His skin was burning. The sparks turned to liquid fire, racing through my veins. I could feel his heartbeat under my palms, frantic, desperate, matching mine. Draven. It was the first time I'd said his name out loud. He shuddered at the sound. Then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was 10 days of kidnapping, pain, sparks, and unspoken need crashing together. His mouth claimed mine like he'd been starving for it since the moment he marked me. One hand cupped the back of my head. The other slid under the blanket to pull me flush against him. The bond exploded into pure white light behind my eyelids. I kissed him back. I hated myself for it. I hated how right it felt. But my fingers tangled in his wet silver-black hair. And I opened for him anyway, tasting storm and pine and the raw, desperate alpha who had chosen me over his own pack. When we finally broke apart, both of us were breathing like we'd run up the mountain again. His golden eyes searched mine, wild and vulnerable. "Tell me to stop," he rasped. "Tell me you still hate me." I couldn't. Instead, I whispered the truth that terrified me more than any blizzard or prophecy ever could. "I don't know how to hate you anymore." Outside, the storm raged on. Inside the little cabin, the bond finally stopped fighting us and started pulling us home. Chapter 8. The storm had finally quieted by morning, leaving the world outside the cabin buried in silence and white. Draven had slept on the floor all night, a silent, massive shadow between me and the door, while I lay on the narrow cot wrapped in blankets that still smelled like him. The kiss replayed behind my eyelids every time I closed them. The bond hummed low and steady in my chest now, no longer fighting me, just waiting. Like it knew I was already losing the war. We rode back down the ridge at dawn, me on his wolf's back again, the sparks between us quieter but deeper. Neither of us spoke. There was nothing left to say after that kiss. The moment we stepped back into the mansion, Kale was waiting in the corridor, face tight with urgency. Alpha, he said quickly. Your brother. He's awake. Fully human. And he's asking for her. Draven's golden eyes flashed to me. Now. Kale nodded. He's been shifting in and out all night. The moon singer's song finally pulled him through. He wants to thank her. In person. My stomach twisted. The black wolf from the cages, the one who had slammed himself against the bars until they rang, was Draven's younger brother. The one whose life I'd saved with a single trembling note on a mountain trail I never should have been on. Draven's hand found the small of my back without asking. Sparks flared, warm and protective. Come, but stay close to me. The infirmary wing was brighter than the rest of the mountain. Soft daylight filtered through high skylights, and the air smelled of herbs and clean linen instead of blood and feral musk. In a wide bed near the far wall lay a young man no older than 20, black hair tousled, amber eyes still flickering between wolf and human. Bandages wrapped his torso where claws had torn him open during the curse. He looked fragile. Human. The second he saw me, those amber eyes widened. You, he breathed, voice hoarse from months of howling. The singer. I stopped 3 feet from the bed. Draven stayed at my side like a living shield, but his hand on my back was gentle now. The brother pushed himself up on shaky elbows. I'm Riker. Draven's blood. You sang, and the red fog lifted. For the first time in 6 months, I remembered my own name. Tears, actual tears, glistened in his eyes. I remembered my brother screaming my name while I tried to rip his throat out. Draven's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Riker reached out a trembling hand toward me. Please. Come closer. I glanced at Draven. He gave the smallest nod. The moment my fingers brushed Riker's, the bond flared in warning, not pain, just a jealous spark that said mine. I ignored it and sat on the edge of the bed. Riker's voice dropped to a whisper only I could hear. He's dying too, you know. The alpha. The curse is eating him from the inside. Every time another wolf turns feral, a piece of him turns with them. He hasn't slept more than 2 hours a night in months. He's been carrying this pack alone since our father died. And then you appeared. And for the first time I saw him hope. My throat tightened. Riker squeezed my hand. The prophecy says you'll die singing the final song. But my brother swore on our mother's grave, he won't let that happen. He'd burn the entire mountain down before he loses you. Stay, Liora. Not for the pack. For him. He's never begged for anything in his life, until you. I felt Draven stiffen beside me. Through the bond I caught flashes. Riker as a pup, Draven teaching him to shift. The night their father was killed by the curse. Draven standing alone over 2 graves, promising he would never let the pack fall. Tears burned behind my eyes. Riker's voice cracked. If you run again, he'll follow you until the bond kills you both. Please. Give him the 3 weeks. Give us all 3 weeks. Then decide. The room was silent except for the crackle of the hearth, and the distant howl of wind still clinging to the peaks. I looked up at Draven. His golden eyes were raw, stripped of every alpha mask. He wasn't the ruthless kidnapper right now. He was just a man who had carried too much for too long, and had finally found someone the universe said was his. My voice came out small. I'll stay for the 3 weeks. But only because I want to see if the prophecy can be wrong. Riker sagged back against the pillows, relief flooding his face. Thank you. Draven didn't speak. He simply pulled me to my feet, wrapped one arm around my shoulders, and walked me out of the infirmary. The second we were alone in the corridor he stopped, turned me to face him, and pressed his forehead to mine. You have no idea what you just gave me, he whispered, voice breaking. Not the pack. Me. The bond sang between us, bright, hopeful, terrifying. And for the first time since he'd marked me on that blood moon night, I didn't want to run. I wanted to stay. And see what happened when a moon singer chose her alpha back. Chapter 9. The storm had finally quieted by morning, leaving the world outside the cabin buried in silence and white. Draven had slept on the floor all night. A silent, massive shadow between me and the door, while I lay on the narrow cot wrapped in blankets that still smelled like him. The kiss replayed behind my eyelids every time I closed them. The bond hummed low and steady in my chest now, no longer fighting me, just waiting. Like it knew I was already losing the war. We rode back down the ridge at dawn, me on his wolf's back again, the sparks between us quieter but deeper. Neither of us spoke. There was nothing left to say after that kiss. The moment we stepped back into the mansion, Kale was waiting in the corridor, face tight with urgency. "Alpha," he said quickly. "Your brother. He's awake. Fully human. And he's asking for her." Draven's golden eyes flashed to me. "Now." Kale nodded. "He's been shifting in and out all night. The Moon Singer's song finally pulled him through. He wants to thank her. In person." My stomach twisted. The black wolf from the cages, the one who had slammed himself against the bars until they rang, was Draven's younger brother. The one whose life I'd saved with a single trembling note on a mountain trail I never should have been on. Draven's hand found the small of my back without asking. Sparks flared, warm and protective. "Cool me. But stay close to me." The infirmary wing was brighter than the rest of the mountain. Soft daylight filtered through high skylights, and the air smelled of herbs and clean linen instead of blood and feral musk. In a wide bed near the far wall lay a young man no older than 20, black hair tousled, amber eyes still flickering between wolf and human. Bandages wrapped his torso where claws had torn him open during the curse. He looked fragile, human. The second he saw me, those amber eyes widened. "You," he breathed, voice hoarse from months of howling. "The singer." I stopped 3 feet from the bed. Draven stayed at my side like a living shield, but his hand on my back was gentle now. The brother pushed himself up on shaky elbows. "I'm Riker." Draven's blood. You sang, and the red fog lifted. For the first time in 6 months, I remembered my own name. Tears, actual tears, glistened in his eyes. I remembered my brother screaming my name while I tried to rip his throat out. Draven's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Riker reached out a trembling hand toward me. "Please. Come closer." I glanced at Draven. He gave the smallest nod. The moment my fingers brushed Riker's, the bond flared in warning. Not pain, just a jealous spark that said mine. I ignored it, and sat on the edge of the bed. Riker's voice dropped to a whisper only I could hear. "He's dying too, you know. The Alpha. The curse is eating him from the inside. Every time another wolf turns feral, a piece of him turns with them. He hasn't slept more than 2 hours a night in months. He's been carrying this pack alone since our father died. And then you appeared. And for the first time I saw him hope." My throat tightened. Riker squeezed my hand. "The prophecy says you'll die singing the final song. But my brother swore on our mother's grave he won't let that happen. He'd burn the entire mountain down before he loses you. Stay, Liora. Not for the pack. For him. He's never begged for anything in his life, until you." I felt Draven stiffen beside me. Through the bond, I caught flashes. Riker as a pup, Draven teaching him to shift. The night their father was killed by the curse, Draven standing alone over 2 graves, promising he would never let the pack fall. Tears burned behind my eyes. Riker's voice cracked. "If you run again, he'll follow you until the bond kills you both. Please. Give him the 3 weeks. Give us all 3 weeks. Then decide." The room was silent except for the crackle of the hearth, and the distant howl of wind still clinging to the peaks. I looked up at Draven. His golden eyes were raw, stripped of every alpha mask. He wasn't the ruthless kidnapper right now. He was just a man who had carried too much for too long, and had finally found someone the universe said was his. My voice came out small. "I'll stay for the 3 weeks. But only because I want to see if the prophecy can be wrong." Riker sagged back against the pillows, relief flooding his face. "Thank you." Draven didn't speak. He simply pulled me to my feet, wrapped one arm around my shoulders, and walked me out of the infirmary. The second we were alone in the corridor he stopped, turned me to face him, and pressed his forehead to mine. "You have no idea what you just gave me," he whispered, voice breaking. "Not the pack. Me. The bond sang between us. Bright, hopeful, terrifying. And for the first time since he'd marked me on that blood moon night, I didn't want to run. I wanted to stay. And see what happened when a moon singer chose her alpha back." Chapter 10. The mansion felt different after Riker's words. Lighter. Like the mountain itself had exhaled for the first time in months. Draven walked me back to my room in silence, but every step hummed with the bond. Warmer now, almost hopeful. His hand never left the small of my back. I didn't pull away. That night, I slept without chains for the first time since the marking. The kiss from the cabin replayed behind my eyelids, softer in memory, and the bond sang me into dreams where I wasn't a prisoner anymore. I woke to cold steel against my throat. A gloved hand clamped over my mouth before I could scream. Two shadows moved in the darkness. Black-clad figures with red eyes glowing faintly under hoods. Not eclipse wolves. Their scent was wrong. Bitter ash and rival territory. Shadowfang. The taller one leaned close, voice a venomous hiss. The moon singer. The alpha's new toy. Our lord wants you dead before the blood moon. No prophecy. No cure. The blade pressed harder. Blood welled under its edge. The bond exploded like a bomb inside my chest. I bit my hand over my mouth. The assassin snarled. I screamed Draven's name. Not a word, a raw, desperate sound that tore through the mansion as my voice had torn through the cages. Doors crashed open down the hall. Footsteps thundered. The second assassin lunged for me with a silver dagger meant to kill a moon singer mid-song. I rolled off the bed, crashing to the floor. Pain flared in my ribs, but the bond was screaming louder, dragging Draven to me across the distance. The window shattered inward. Draven came through it in wolf form, glass exploding around him like starlight. Silver-black fury. He hit the first assassin so hard that the man flew into the stone wall, and didn't get up. The second raised the dagger. Too late. Draven shifted midair, landing human, naked and raging. One massive hand closed around the assassin's throat and slammed him into the floor. Bones cracked. Shadowfang, Draven snarled, voice lethal. Who sent you? The man laughed through bloody teeth. Your precious singer dies either way, Voss. Our alpha knows her name now. The war has already begun. Draven's eyes flicked to me, just for a heartbeat, and the bond poured pure terror into my veins. Not for himself. For me. He snapped the assassin's neck with one brutal twist. Silence fell, broken only by my ragged breathing and the distant alarms now ringing through the mansion. Draven crossed the room in 2 strides and pulled me into his arms. The bond flared so bright the fresh cut on my throat stopped bleeding instantly, sparks sealing the wound like magic. His hands shook as they framed my face. They know, he whispered, forehead against mine. The Shadowfang pack knows you exist. They'll send more. Armies. They want the moon singer dead before she can break the curse, before she can make us stronger than they've ever been. I was trembling. Then let me go. Send me away. If I'm the target. No, his voice cracked on the word. Never again. The only place you're safe is beside me. The bond knows it. I know it. And after tonight. He swallowed hard, golden eyes burning. After tonight, the whole pack knows it too. Kale burst into the room with warriors behind him, taking in the bodies and the shattered window. His face went pale. Shadowfang assassins. Inside the den. Alpha, we're at war. Draven didn't look away from me. Double the patrols. Seal every tunnel. And spread the word. The moon singer is under my direct protection. Anyone who comes near her dies. He lifted me again, carrying me out of the bloodied room and down the hall toward his own quarters. The alpha's den I'd never been allowed inside before. The bond sang between us the entire way, no longer just sparks. It was a vow. Outside, the mountain wind carried the howls of approaching enemies. Inside, Draven set me on his bed, massive, carved from the same black wood as the mountain, and knelt in front of me like an alpha kneeling before his Luna. 3 weeks just became 3 weeks of war, he said quietly. But I swear on every life in this pack. I will keep you alive, Liora. Even if it costs me mine. I reached out and touched his jaw. The sparks that answered felt like armor. For the first time, I wasn't sure who was protecting whom anymore. Chapter 11. War came at dawn 3 days later. The Shadowfang pack didn't wait for the blood moon. They struck the eastern pass with 200 wolves. Red-eyed, curse-maddened, led by their alpha. A scarred brute named Varric who wanted the Moon Singer's head as a trophy before she could break the feral curse forever. I stood on the ridge above the battlefield beside Draven, wind whipping my hair. The bond screaming between us like a war drum. Below, eclipse wolves clashed in a storm of fangs and fur. Howls split the air. Blood already stained the snow. You stay behind the line, Draven ordered, voice tight. His silver-black armor gleamed under the weak sunrise, golden eyes locked on the chaos. This is not your fight. It became my fight the night you marked me, I shot back. My throat still carried the faint scar from the assassin's blade, but the bond had healed it faster than any medicine. I'm not hiding while your pack dies for me. He turned, towering over me, one massive hand cupping my face. Sparks detonated. Hotter than ever, laced with fear and pride. If anything happens to you down there, then the bond will kill you too. I finish for him. So we fight together. Or not at all. For one heartbeat, his eyes searched mine, raw, desperate, loving in a way no alpha should look at his captive. Then he nodded once. Stay at my side. Sing only when I say. We shifted positions, Draven in wolf form, massive and terrifying, me riding his back as I had in the blizzard. The bond thrummed approval as we plunged down the ridge into the melee. The battlefield was hell. Shadowfang wolves tore into the Eclipse warriors. Varric's roar shook the mountain as he ripped through two of Draven's best fighters. Blood sprayed across white snow. The air reeked of copper and rage. Draven slammed into the fray like a living storm. I clung to his fur, heart hammering, the bond feeding me his strength. Every time a Shadowfang wolf lunged at us, Draven tore them apart with brutal efficiency. But they kept coming. Too many, too feral. Then Varric broke through the line and charged straight for us. His red eyes locked on me. The singer, he bellowed. Kill the human and the curse lives forever. Draven skidded to a halt, shielding me with his body. Warriors closed in on every side. We were surrounded. The bond surged inside me. Not pain, not sparks, but power. Ancient. Demanding. My throat burned with a song I hadn't learned yet. Draven's voice cut through the chaos in my mind. Now Liora. Sing. I opened my mouth. The moon song tore out of me. Not one note, not two, but a full verse of silver fire. It wasn't beautiful. It was a weapon. Every Shadowfang wolf within 50 yards froze mid-leap. Their red eyes flickered. Some dropped to their bellies. Others howled in agony as the curse inside them warred with my voice. Eclipse wolves surged forward, taking advantage of the situation. But Varric fought through it. He barreled toward Draven, jaws wide. The bond exploded between Draven and me like a supernova. Something inside my chest cracked open, not breaking, awakening. Heat flooded my veins. My vision sharpened. Claws pricked at my fingertips. For one impossible second, I felt fur ripple under my skin. I wasn't fully shifting, but I wasn't fully human anymore. Isong loaded. The final note of the verse slammed into Varric like a physical blow. He staggered, red eyes clearing for half a heartbeat. Long enough for Draven to leap. Alpha met Alpha in a crash of fangs and fury. Draven's jaws closed on Varric's throat. The Shadowfang Alpha fell. The remaining enemy wolves broke and fled, howling in retreat as my voice chased them down the pass. Silence fell over the battlefield. Draven shifted back, blood-streaked and breathing hard, and pulled me off his back into his arms. The bond was blazing now, no longer just connecting us but changing me. My eyes glowed faintly gold when I looked up at him. The mark on my neck shimmered like liquid moonlight. You sang, he whispered, voice awed. And the mountain answered. You're becoming more than the prophecy ever promised, Liora. You're becoming Luna. I trembled in his arms, the new power humming under my skin like a second heartbeat. The pack around us dropped to one knee, heads bowed, not to their alpha, but to me. For the first time, I didn't feel like a captive. I felt like I belonged. Chapter 12. Varric's body hit the snow with a wet thud, his red eyes glazing over as the last breath rattled from his ruined throat. Draven stood over him, chest heaving, blood streaking his silver-black fur, before he shifted back to human form. The battlefield had gone eerily quiet. Only the wind and the distant whimpers of retreating Shadowfang wolves remained. I slid from Draven's back, legs shaking, the new power still crackling under my skin like lightning I didn't yet know how to control. My voice had done this. My song had turned the tide. But the bond was screaming now, not in triumph, but in warning. Varric's lips twitched. One last gasp. He looked straight at me, blood bubbling at the corner of his mouth, and laughed, a wet, broken sound. "You think you've won, little singer?" he rasped. "The traitor is already inside your walls. Closer than you know. Celine, she's been feeding us everything. Your training schedule. Your weakness. The exact night the blood moon rises." His eyes flicked to Draven, gleaming with dying malice. "And the secret, the real reason the moon singer always dies, is because the bond can only be completed if one of you sacrifices the other. One heart for the curse to break. Ask your precious Alpha why he never told you that part of the prophecy." Varric's head lolled to the side. "Dead." The words hung in the frozen air like poison. Draven went completely still. The bond between us, which had been blazing with victory seconds ago, suddenly felt like ice cracking underfoot. I turned to him slowly. "Draven." His golden eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw real fear in them. Not for the pack. Not for war. For us. Kale appeared at our side, breathing hard, eyes wide. "Alpha. Celine is missing. She wasn't on the ridge during the battle. She was supposed to be guarding the western flank." Draven's voice was deadly quiet. "Find her. Bring her to me alive." He didn't look at me. He simply took my hand and pulled me away from the battlefield, through the snow, back toward the mansion. The bond was screaming now. Pain and secrets and something darker twisting between us. Every step hurt. Inside the Alpha's den he finally spoke, voice raw. "I knew," he admitted, closing the heavy door behind us. "The full prophecy. The one the scrolls only hint at. To permanently break the curse, the moon singer and her Alpha must offer one life willingly. One of them dies so the other lives, forever bonded, forever free. Every previous singer chose death to save her pack. Every Alpha let her." I backed away until my spine hit the stone wall. "And you? You marked me anyway? You kissed me? You let me start falling for you knowing one of us has to die." Draven's hands clenched at his sides. "I was going to find another way. I swore I would. The bond. It's changing you, Liora. You're becoming something the old prophecies never accounted for. You almost shifted on the battlefield today. If we can complete the bond without sacrifice, if your power is strong enough, maybe the rule breaks too." Tears burned my eyes. "Maybe? That's what you're risking my life on. A maybe?" He crossed the room in 2 strides and dropped to his knees in front of me. The Alpha of the Eclipse pack on his knees before a human. His hands framed my face, thumbs brushing away the tears that had escaped. "I would rather die 1,000 times than watch you die once," he whispered, voice breaking. "But if it comes down to it, I will be the one who goes. Not you. Never you." The bond surged between us. Pain and love and terror so deep it stole my breath. I could feel his truth through it. He meant every word. I slid down the wall until I was on my knees too, facing him. Our foreheads touched. Sparks ignited, softer now, laced with heartbreak. "Celine betrayed us," I said quietly. "Varric is dead. The war isn't over. And now we have 3 weeks to figure out how to break a 1,000-year-old rule. Or one of us dies." Draven's arms came around me, pulling me against his chest. "Then we fight the traitor. We train harder. And we finish what we started in that cabin." He kissed me again, desperate, fierce, a vow wrapped in fire. Outside, the howls of returning Eclipse wolves rose in victory. Inside, the secret Varric had spilled hung between us like a blade over our future. The traitor was already inside the walls. And the real war, the one that could destroy us both, had only just begun. Chapter 13. The mansion had never felt colder. Draven's warriors moved like ghosts through the stone halls, sealing every exit, every tunnel, every hidden passage. Alarms, low, ancient howls carved into the walls themselves, echoed through the mountain. Celine was still inside. The bond told me so. It pulsed with warning every time I thought of her name, like the mountain itself was pointing a finger. Draven hadn't let go of my hand since the battlefield. His grip was iron, but his thumb kept brushing the mark on my neck, gentle, desperate, as if reminding both of us we were still alive. "We hunt her now," he said, voice low and lethal as we stood in the war room. Maps of the mountain glowed on the table under silver light. Kale and Riker, still pale and bandaged, flanked us. "No merci. She sold us to Shadowfang." "She sold you?" Riker's amber eyes flashed. "She was my guard for months. I trusted her with my life while I was feral. If she's working with them, she dies," Draven finished. His golden eyes met mine. "But you stay with me. The bond will lead us straight to her." I nodded. The new power under my skin, the almost shift from the battlefield, hummed in agreement. I wasn't just the moon singer anymore. I was becoming something the prophecies had never seen. We moved out in a tight formation. Draven in front, me at his side, Kale and Riker behind. The trail started in the western wing, Celine's quarters. The room was empty, but the bond flared violently the moment I stepped inside. Her scent lingered, bitter ash and betrayal. "She went deep," Draven growled, following the invisible thread only the bond could feel, toward the forbidden levels, the ones even I sealed centuries ago. We descended. The stairs grew older, rougher, carved by hands that had long turned to dust. Blue torches gave way to natural glowing crystals that pulsed like heartbeats. The air turned heavy, ancient, carrying whispers that weren't quite voices. The bond pulled us to a collapsed tunnel sealed with silver runes. Celine had smashed through them. Fresh claw marks scored the stone. Draven shifted one shoulder, muscles rippling, and tore the remaining rubble aside with raw strength. We slipped through into a cavern I'd never dreamed existed. The walls were covered in paintings older than the Eclipse pack itself. Not wolves, but singers. Human women with glowing throats, standing beside alphas, and some of them were alive after the final song. No sacrifice. No death. Just two hearts beating as one. My breath caught. Draven, look. He froze. The paintings showed the truth Varric had died laughing about, but also the lie. There was another way. A hidden ritual. A place called the Moon Pool, where the singer and alpha could merge their essences completely. No death required. Only total surrender to the bond. Celine's voice echoed from the shadows ahead. "You found it. The secret they buried." She stepped into the crystal light, eyes wild, red streaks already crawling across her skin. The curse beginning to claim her, too. She clutched an ancient dagger that pulsed with the same silver light as the runes. "You think you can rewrite fate?" she spat. "The moon singer always dies. Always. Because the power is too much for one body. Unless," her gaze flicked to me, "unless she becomes something else. Something the old ones feared." Draven moved in front of me. "Drop the blade, Celine. Last chance." She laughed, broken, feral. "Too late. Shadowfang already knows about the pool. They're coming for it. For her. And when they take the singer, the curse spreads to every pack on the continent." She lunged, not at Draven but straight at me, dagger raised to strike the mark on my neck. The bond detonated. Power I didn't know I had surged through me. My voice tore out. Not a song this time, but a single command note that slammed into Celine like a physical wall. She flew backward, crashing into the cavern wall. The dagger clattered away. Draven was on her in a heartbeat, pinning her down. But Celine's eyes met mine one last time. "The pool," she gasped. "It's the only way, but it will change you forever. You'll never be human again." Then Kale's blade ended her. Silence fell again. Draven rose slowly, blood on his hands, and turned to me. The ancient paintings glowed behind him. Images of moon singers who had lived, who had loved, who had ruled as true Lunas. "The secret is older than the curse," he whispered. "And it's been waiting for us." He pulled me close. The bond sang, no longer a chain, but a key. We had 3 weeks until the blood moon. 3 weeks to reach the moon pool. 3 weeks to decide if we were brave enough to become something the world had never seen before. Chapter 14. Midnight found us deep beneath the mountain, where even the crystals had stopped glowing. Draven led the way with nothing but the bond to guide us. The tunnel we followed after Celine's death grew narrower, older, until the walls themselves felt alive. pulsing with the same silver light I'd seen in the ancient paintings. Every step sent fresh sparks racing from my mark straight into my heart. The bond wasn't warning anymore. It was calling. "We're here," Draven said, voice low and reverent. The tunnel opened into a cavern so vast it stole my breath. At its center lay the moon pool, a perfect circle of liquid silver that reflected the blood moon high above, through a natural shaft in the ceiling. The water didn't ripple. It hummed. Ancient runes carved into the surrounding stone glowed in rhythm with my heartbeat. This was the place where the prophecies had been hidden. The place where a moon singer and her alpha could rewrite fate. Draven stopped at the edge. His golden eyes reflected the silver water like twin stars. "The ritual is simple in words," he whispered. "We enter together. We let the bond complete. No sacrifice. No death. Just surrender." But the old texts warn the singer's body may not survive the change. I looked at him. Really looked. The alpha who had kidnapped me, marked me, kissed me in a blizzard, and chosen me over his own pack. The man was willing to die so I wouldn't have to. "Then we changed the rules together," I said. I stepped into the pool first. The silver water rose to my waist and felt like liquid starlight, cool, electric, alive. The moment both my feet left the stone, the bond exploded. Power slammed into me so hard my knees buckled. Draven was there instantly, waiting in behind me, his massive arms wrapping around my waist from behind. "Stay with me," he growled against my ear. "Whatever happens, stay with me." The water began to rise. It wasn't water anymore. It was pure moonlight given form. It climbed my body, glowing brighter with every inch. The mark on my neck burned white hot. My skin prickled. Bones shifted. Fur, actual silver-tipped chestnut fur, rippled across my arms. I was shifting. For the first time in history, a human moon singer was becoming a wolf. Pain and ecstasy crashed together. I cried out. Draven held me tighter, his own body beginning to shift with mine, not into the massive black-silver wolf I knew, but something new. Something matched me. Our forms blurred together in the silver light. 2 hearts, 2 souls, 1 bond completing at last. The pool flared like a second moon. When the light finally faded, I stood on 4 legs, sleek, powerful, my fur the color of moonlight on autumn leaves, eyes glowing the same gold as Draven's. He stood beside me, larger than before, his silver-black coat now threaded with the same chestnut streaks as mine. We were no longer alpha and singer. We were equals. True mates. Luna and Alpha, bound forever. The bond sang between us. No pain, no chains, only pure, unbreakable connection. I could feel his thoughts, his fears. His love was so deep it brought tears to my wolf eyes. Draven lowered his massive head and nuzzled my neck, right over the mark that now glowed like a crown. "You did it," he whispered through the bond, voice filled with awe. "You survived. You changed everything." I nuzzled him back, the first full shift still humming in my blood like the most beautiful song I'd ever sung. But even in this perfect moment, the bond showed me one last shadow. 3 weeks until the blood moon. And far above us, on the surface, the howls of the full Shadowfang army were already closing in. We had become unstoppable. Now we had to survive long enough to use it. Chapter 15. The moon pool still shimmered behind us as we climbed back toward the surface, but everything had changed. I moved on 4 legs now, sleek, powerful, my chestnut silver fur catching the faint moonlight that filtered through the cracks above. Every step felt like flying. The bond no longer pulled or ached. It flowed between Draven and me like a river of starlight. I could feel his thoughts as clearly as my own. Awe, fierce protectiveness, and a love so deep it made my new wolf heart stutter. Draven ran beside me in his shifted form. Larger than before, his silver-black coat now threaded with the same chestnut streaks that marked me as his. True mates. Luna and Alpha. No longer captor and captive. We were one. We burst out of the hidden tunnel into the open night. The sky was a blanket of diamonds. The blood moon hung low and heavy, painting the snow-capped peaks in crimson and silver. The air was crisp, alive with pine and freedom. Draven slowed, golden eyes glowing as he looked at me. "Run with me," his voice echoed through the bond. Not a command, an invitation. For the first time as equals. I answered by leaping forward. We ran. The mountain became ours. Paws silent on fresh snow, wind whipping through our fur. The bond singing a song only we could hear. I raced ahead, testing my new body, and Draven matched me stride for stride, never pushing, never pulling, just with me. We leaped crevasses, climbed ridges, howled together at the stars until the entire eclipse pack below answered with triumphant cries. For 1 perfect hour, there was no war. No prophecy. No trater. Just us. Beneath a cluster of ancient pines at the highest ridge, we finally slowed. Draven shifted first, standing tall and naked under the moonlight, silver-black hair tousled by the wind. I followed. The shift back to human felt like sliding into warm water. My body was the same, yet stronger. My eyes still carried that faint golden glow. The mark on my neck shimmered like a living crown. He pulled me into his arms without a word. Our bare skin met, and the bond flared, not the desperate sparks of before, but a deep, steady fire that warmed every inch of me. His lips found mine under the stars, slow and reverent this time, like he was memorizing the taste of forever. When we broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. "You're magnificent," he whispered. "My Luna. My equal. The mountain has never seen anything like you." I smiled against his mouth. "And you're mine, Alpha Draven Voss. No more running. No more fighting the bond. Just us." For 1 heartbeat, the world was perfect. Then the bond screamed. A new howl rose from the eastern border. Not eclipse. Not victory. Hundreds of voices, twisted with the red curse, echoing up the pass like thunder. Draven's head snapped toward the sound. His golden eyes narrowed. "Shadowfang," he growled. "The full army." They didn't retreat. They circled. They're at the border right now, waiting for the blood moon to strike. Through the bond one saw it. Thousands of red-eyed wolves massing at the mountain's edge, Varric's second in command leading them. Banners of black and crimson snapping in the wind. They knew we'd completed the ritual. They knew I'd shifted. And they were coming to end the moon singer before the final song could be sung. Draven pulled me tighter, his voice steady even as the bond flooded with battle rage. 3 weeks just became 3 days. They're not waiting for the blood moon anymore. He shifted again, massive and ready, lowering his shoulder for me to climb on. I swung up, fur rippling across my skin as I joined him in wolf form. The bond blazed between us. No fear now, only unbreakable purpose. Then we meet them head-on. I sent through the bond, my wolf voice strong and clear. Together. Draven's howl split the night, a challenge that shook the stars. Below us, the eclipse pack answered as one. The first true battle for our forever had begun. Chapter 16. The war camp burned with torchlight and quiet determination. Eclipse wolves moved like shadows between the pines, sharpening blades, checking armor, whispering final goodbyes to mates and pups. 3 days had become 1. The Shadowfang army had crossed the eastern border at dusk. Thousands of red-eyed monsters under black banners, howling for the moon singer's blood before the blood moon rose tomorrow night. I stood on the ridge above the camp in human form, the wind tugging at my silver-trimmed cloak. My body still hummed with the new power from the moon pool. I could shift at will now, faster and stronger than any natural wolf. But tonight I stayed human, because Draven had asked me to meet him here alone. The bond pulled me toward him before I even saw his silhouette. He waited at the very edge of the cliff, back to the camp, staring out over the dark valley where the enemy fires glowed like a sea of blood. His silver-black hair lifted in the wind. The blood moon hung huge and crimson behind him, turning every line of his body into living shadow and fire. He turned when he felt me approach. Golden eyes met mine, and the bond sang, deep, steady, full of everything we had become. No more chains. No more fear of sacrifice. Just 2 hearts that had chosen each other against every prophecy ever written. "Liora," he said, voice rough with emotion. He dropped to one knee right there on the snow-dusted stone. The alpha of the eclipse pack kneeling before his Luna, as if the mountain itself witnessed the moment. In his hands he held a simple ring, no gold, no jewels. Just a band forged from the same silver runes that had sealed the moon pool. It glowed softly, alive with the same light that now lived inside both of us. "I stole you once," he said quietly. marked you without permission, forced you into a world you never asked for. I will spend the rest of my life making that right. But tonight I'm asking. The wind stilled. Even the distant howls of the enemy seemed to fade. Marry me, Liora Kane. Not because the bond demands it. Not because the pack needs a Luna. Marry me because when I look at you, I see the rest of my life. Because you turned a curse into a blessing. Because I love you. The human, the singer, the wolf, the woman who chose to stay. Be my wife. Be my Luna. Be mine in every way the moon will allow. Tears slipped down my cheeks, freezing instantly in the cold air. The bond between us blazed brighter than the blood moon above, flooding me with his love, raw, desperate, eternal. I stepped forward and took the ring from his hands. It slid onto my finger like it had been waiting 1,000 years for this exact moment. The runes flared once, warm and perfect. Yes, I whispered, then louder, voice carrying on the wind like the first note I'd ever sung for him. Yes, Draven Voss. I will marry you. Tonight. Tomorrow. Every lifetime after this one. He rose in one fluid motion and crushed me against his chest. Our kiss was fire and starlight, deep, claiming, full of every battle we had fought and every one still ahead. The bond sealed the promise with a surge of power that lit the entire ridge in silver and gold. When we finally broke apart, the blood moon seemed to smile down on us. Tomorrow we fight the final battle, he said against my lips. But tonight you are my wife in the eyes of the moon. Whatever happens at dawn, no one can take that from us. I rested my forehead against his, our hearts beating in perfect sync through the bond. Then let's make tonight count. Far below, the enemy howls rose again, closer now, louder, hungry. But on that ridge under the blood moon, Alpha and Luna stood unbreakable, married in the only way that mattered. Ready for war. Ready for forever. Chapter 17. Sunrise bled across the battlefield like a wound. The blood moon had not yet set. It hung low and swollen in the eastern sky, staining the snow crimson as the Shadowfang army crested the final ridge. Thousands of red-eyed wolves poured down the slope in a black tide. Fangs bared, curse-maddened, howling for the moonsinger's heart. Draven and I stood at the front of the eclipse line. No more hiding. No more running. I wore the silver rune ring on my finger like armor. My chestnut silver fur rippled just beneath my skin, ready to burst free. Draven stood beside me in human form for now, black armor gleaming, golden eyes locked on the enemy. The bond between us burned brighter than the sun rising behind us. 2 hearts, 2 souls, one unbreakable vow made under the stars last night. Husband and wife. Alpha and Luna. Whatever happens, he said through the bond, voice steady in my mind. You sing only when I tell you. I will not lose you today. I answered the same way, my thoughts wrapping around his like a promise. And I will not lose you. We finished this together. The enemy charged. The ground shook. Howls tore the air. Eclipse wolves surged forward to meet them. Kale on the left flank, Riker, still healing but fighting like a demon, on the right. Stil met Feng. Blood sprayed across white snow. The clash was deafening. Draven shifted in one fluid explosion of power, silver-black fur threaded with my chestnut streaks. I shifted with him, landing on 4 powerful legs beside my mate. We ran as one. The battle became a blur of teeth and fury. I sang the first defensive notes, not the final song, but the training verses that calmed and stunned. Waves of silver sound rolled across the field. Shadowfang wolves staggered, red eyes flickering. Eclipse wolves pressed the advantage, tearing through the dazed enemy. But the Shadowfang numbers were endless. Their new alpha. Varric's second, a monstrous gray brute named Thorn, broke through the center line and barreled straight for us. His red eyes locked on me. The singer, he roared. Kill her, and the curse lives forever. Draven met him head-on. The 2 alphas collided like mountains crashing. Fangs snapped. Blood flew. I circled them, singing sharper notes to weaken Thorn's curse-maddened strength. The bond fed me Draven's pain and power in equal measure. Every wound he took, I felt. Every strike he landed, I tasted. The battle turned desperate. Eclipse wolves were falling. The snow ran red. Thorn broke free from Draven and lunged for me. jaws wide enough to crush my wolf form in one bite. I planted my paws. The final song rose in my throat, the one the moon pool had unlocked inside me, the one that could end the curse forever. Draven's voice roared through the bond. Now Liora. Isong. The sound that left me was not a voice. It was pure moonlight given sound. A soaring, shattering melody that split the sky. Silver light exploded outward from my body in a shockwave. Every Shadowfang wolf within a mile screamed as the curse inside them burned away. Their red eyes cleared. Some dropped to their bellies in surrender. Others simply collapsed, freed at last. But the power was too much. The song demanded payment. My legs buckled. The bond screamed as the ancient price tried to tear my life away. The same price every previous moonsinger had paid. Draven felt it instantly. He abandoned Thorn mid-fight and sprinted toward me, shifting back to human in a desperate leap. His arms caught me as I collapsed, cradling my wolf form against his chest. No, he roared, voice breaking. Not you. Never you. Through the fading song, I felt the bond fracturing, the sacrifice trying to claim me. But something new answered. The ring on my finger flared white hot. The moon pool power we had merged in the ritual surged back to life. The chestnut streaks in Draven's fur glowed. Our bond refused to break. I shifted back to human in his arms, gasping, alive. The final note hung in the air, and the curse shattered across the entire battlefield in a cascade of silver light. Shadowfang wolves collapsed by the hundreds, eyes clearing, curses burning away. The war ended in a single breath. Draven held me tighter than life itself, forehead pressed to mine, tears freezing on his lashes. You did it, he whispered, voice raw. You broke the curse, and you lived. I reached up and touched his face, the bond singing between us louder than any song ever could. We lived, I corrected softly. Together. Around us, the Eclipse Pack raised their voices in a victory howl that shook the mountains. The war was over. The curse was gone. And under the blood moon that had started everything, Alpha and Luna stood victorious, married, bonded, and finally free. Chapter 18. The blood moon had set, but the sky refused to darken. Instead, it blazed with 1,000 stars that seemed to lean closer, as if the heavens themselves wanted to witness this night. The Eclipse Pack had transformed the highest ridge into a cathedral of moonlight. Silver lanterns floated on invisible threads of magic. White wolf pelts and pine boughs lined a path that led to an altar carved from the same stone as the moon pool. Every wolf in the pack stood in solemn rows, eyes glowing with joy instead of battle rage. I stood at the edge of the path in a gown woven from moonlight and starlight, silver silk that shimmered with living runes, the hem trailing behind me like liquid stars. The mark on my neck glowed softly, no longer a brand but a crown. My chestnut silver hair fell loose down my back, threaded with tiny white flowers that bloomed only on this mountain. Draven waited at the altar. He wore black ceremonial armor edged in silver, his silver-black hair tied back with a leather cord. The chestnut streaks I had given him in the moon pool caught the starlight like threads of fate. His golden eyes found mine the moment I appeared, and the bond between us sang so loudly the entire pack felt it. A wave of warmth that made every wolf smile. Kale stood as officiant, Riker at his side holding the ceremonial blade. The pack fell silent as I walked the path alone. Not because I had no one to give me away, but because I had chosen to walk it as the Luna I had become. Draven's breath caught when I reached him. You're real, he whispered through the bond, voice thick with awe. After everything, you're still choosing me. I took his hands. The rune ring on my finger flared bright. I was never the captive, I answered softly. I was always the one who would set us both free. Kale's voice rang out across the ridge. Ancient words that had not been spoken in 1,000 years. Under the open sky, before pack and moon and stars, do you, Draven Voss, Alpha of the Eclipse Pack, take Liora Kane as your wife, your Luna, your equal in all things? Draven's golden eyes never left mine. Ido. With every breath, every lifetime, every beat of this heart that now belongs to her. Kale turned to me. And do you, Liora Kane, moon singer and Luna, take Draven Voss as your husband, your Alpha, your equal in all things? My voice was steady, carried on the night wind so every wolf could hear. Ido. I chose him. Not because the bond demands it, but because I love him. The pack erupted in howls of joy. Kale raised the ceremonial blade, pricked our palms, and pressed them together. Silver light flared where our blood met. The bond surged, not with pain or sparks, but with pure, unbreakable completion. Husband and wife, Alpha and Luna, mated in every way the moon allowed. Draven pulled me into his arms and kissed me beneath the stars, slow, deep, full of every battle we had survived and every future we had earned. The pack howled louder, the floating lanterns flaring brighter, the entire mountain celebrating with us. When we finally broke apart, breathless and smiling, I felt a new warmth bloom low in my belly, soft, insistent, impossible to ignore. The bond showed me before I could even speak. 2 tiny heartbeats. Twin lives. The first mixed blood alpha heirs in 1,000 years. My eyes widened. Draven felt it the same instant through our connection. His hands dropped to my waist, cradling me as if I were made of starlight. Liora, his voice cracked with wonder. You're carrying them. Our children. Tears spilled down my cheeks as the pack realized what had happened. Howls turned to joyous roars. Riker dropped to one knee first, then the entire pack followed. Heads bowed to their Luna and the future she carried. Draven pulled me close, forehead against mine, his massive frame trembling with emotion. You gave me everything, he whispered. A pack saved. A curse broken. A wife I don't deserve. And now a family. I laughed through happy tears, hands resting over his on my still flat belly. We did this together. No more prophecies. No more sacrifices. Just us. Under the stars that had witnessed our proposal, our wedding, and now this miracle, Alpha and Luna stood wrapped in each other. Married, bonded, and expecting the first heirs the mountain had seen in centuries. The war was over. The curse was gone. And the future had just begun. Chapter 19. 1 week after the wedding, the full moon rose again, no longer blood red, but pure silver and gentle, as if the sky itself had forgiven the mountain for 1,000 years of curse. The entire eclipse pack gathered at the sacred ridge where Draven had proposed. Lanterns still floated from our wedding night, now joined by thousands of tiny glowing orbs the pups had made. Laughter and howls of celebration filled the air. But everyone waited for us. Draven and I stood at the center in human form, my hand in his, the rune ring on my finger glowing softly against the silver light. My belly was still flat to the world, but through the bond one felt them. Our twins, 2 tiny sparks of life growing stronger every day. Ready, wife? Draven asked, golden eyes soft with wonder as he looked down at me. I smiled up at him, the bond humming with joy. Ready, husband? We shifted together. My chestnut silver wolf form emerged sleek and powerful. The same silver streaks in Draven's massive black coat now shimmering like stars. The pack howled in awe. The first Luna who had ever shifted without losing her humanity. The first Alpha whose mate carried the future inside her. Draven lowered his head and nuzzled my neck, right over the glowing mark. Run with me, he sent through the bond, voice warm and full of love. As husband and wife. As parents-to-be. We leaped forward as one. The first full moon run of our married life was pure magic. We raced across the ridges, paws silent on snow that sparkled like diamonds. The pack followed at a respectful distance, their howls weaving a song of celebration beneath ours. Wind whipped through our fur. Stars blurred above. The bond flowed between us like liquid moonlight. No pain, no fear, only perfect unity. Halfway up the highest peak, something new happened. A tiny flutter inside me. Then another. The twins. They shifted for the first time. Not outside, but inside me. 2 small sparks of wolf energy waking up at the same moment their parents ran beneath the full moon. The sensation was indescribable. A warm, electric ripple low in my belly, like 2 tiny hearts learning to howl before they even had voices. I stumbled for half a step. Draven felt it instantly through the bond. He slowed, circling back to press his massive wolf body against mine, protective and awed. They're shifting, he whispered in my mind, voice cracking with emotion. Our children, they feel the moon already. I nuzzled him back, overwhelmed. Through the bond one sent him the feeling. The tiny flutters, the 2 distinct sparks, one strong and steady like his father, the other bright and melodic like my voice. The pack sensed it too. Howls turned to joyous, reverent cries that echoed across the entire mountain. Kale and Riker threw their heads back in celebration. The floating lanterns flared brighter. Draven shifted back to human first, kneeling in the snow so he could press both hands gently to my wolf belly. I shifted with him, landing in his arms, tears of pure joy on my cheeks. "They're real," he whispered, forehead against mine, hands cradling the place where our future grew. "Our twins. The first mixed blood heirs in 1,000 years, and they just ran their first moon with us." I laughed through happy tears, fingers threading into his silver-black hair. "They're already as stubborn as their father, shifting before they're even born." He kissed me softly under the full moon, slow and reverent, the bond wrapping around all four of us now, mother, father, and the two tiny lives we had created together. When we finally broke apart, the pack had formed a wide circle around us, heads bowed in silent blessing. Draven stood, pulling me up with him, one arm around my waist, the other hand still resting protectively on my belly. "Tonight we run as family," he called out, voice carrying to every wolf. "Tomorrow we begin building the future the moon singer and her alpha earned." The pack's answering howl shook the stars. Draven and I shifted again and leaped forward into the night, our twins fluttering happily inside me with every stride. Husband and wife, Alpha and Luna, parents-to-be, running free beneath a moon that no longer demanded sacrifice, only love. Chapter 20. The full moon had barely begun to wane when the first contraction hit. I was standing on the same ridge where Draven had proposed, watching the stars with my husband's arms around me, when the bond suddenly flared white-hot. Not with pain, but with urgent, overwhelming life. My knees buckled. Draven caught me before I could fall, golden eyes widening in instant understanding. "They're coming," he whispered, voice thick with awe and terror. "Tonight." The pack moved like a single living thing. Within minutes, I was carried gently into the sacred birthing chamber deep inside the mountain. The same chamber connected to the moon pool, its walls still glowing with the silver light we had awakened weeks ago. Midwives and healers surrounded us, but Draven never left my side. His hand never left mine. Hours blurred into a river of fire and love. Every contraction was met with his voice in my mind. "I'm here. You're not alone. You're the strongest Luna this mountain has ever known." The bond fed me his strength, turning agony into power. I felt the twins moving inside me. Two bright sparks, one steady like their father, one melodic like my song. Then, at the exact moment the moon reached its highest point, our daughter was born. She came into the world with a tiny howl already on her lips, silver fur flashing across her newborn body for one impossible second before she shifted back to human skin. The midwives gasped. The first dual shift in history, happening at the moment of birth. Draven's tears fell freely as he cradled her against his chest. "Nova," he whispered, naming her on the spot. "Our little star." Moments later, our son followed, stronger, louder, shifting into a tiny black and chestnut wolf pup the instant he drew breath, then back again with a fierce cry. Draven laughed through his tears. "Ki, our warrior." The chamber was filled with the pack's joyous howls echoing from every corridor. Kale and Riker dropped to their knees at the entrance, heads bowed in reverence. The entire Eclipse pack felt the moment through the bond. The first mixed blood heirs, born already able to shift, already singing with the moon. I lay back against Draven's chest, exhausted and glowing, our babies nestled between us. Nova's tiny hand curled around my finger. Kai's golden eyes, already the same shade as his father's, locked onto mine. "They're perfect," I whispered, voice hoarse from effort and wonder. Draven pressed a kiss to my forehead, then to each tiny head. "They're ours. You did this, Liora. You broke every curse, survived every battle, and gave us a future no prophecy ever dared to promise." Through the bond, I felt the mountain itself seem to sigh in relief. The ancient runes on the walls flared brighter than ever, as if the moon pool was celebrating with us. The pack's howls rose into a song of their own. Victory, gratitude, and pure love for the Luna who had saved them all, and then given them heirs who would carry the legacy forward. Draven held all three of us. His wife, his daughter, his son, like we were the only things in the world that mattered. His voice was soft, reverent, meant only for me. From the night I stole you, to the night you stole my heart, to this night. I love you, Liora Voss. Yesterday. Today. Every tomorrow the moon will give us. I smiled up at him, tears of pure joy on my cheeks, our twins nestled safe between us. And I love you, Draven. My alpha. My husband. The father of the future. Outside, the pack began the first family run in centuries, howling for the new heirs. Inside, under the gentle silver light of the chamber, our little family took its first breaths together. The war was over. The curse was broken. And the most beautiful chapter of our story had just begun. Chapter 21. 6 months had passed since the twins were born, and the mountain had never felt more alive. Nova and Kai were already miracles that no one could stop staring at. At 6 months, they could shift at will, tiny silver-black pups with my chestnut streaks, tumbling over each other in the nursery, howling at the moon before they could even walk properly. The pack called them the Moonborn, and every wolf treated them like the future they were. Tonight was their first official pack run. The entire Eclipse pack gathered on the sacred ridge under a gentle silver full moon. Lanterns floated higher than ever, and the air smelled of pine, snow, and pure joy. Draven stood beside me in human form, one arm around my waist, the other cradling Kai against his chest. I held Nova close, her tiny silver-black wolf ears twitching with excitement as she nuzzled my neck. "They're ready," Draven murmured, golden eyes glowing with pride and a little fear only I could feel through the bond. "Our babies are going to run with the pack for the first time." I smiled up at him, the rune ring on my finger warm against his skin. They were born running. Tonight the mountain just gets to watch. Kale raised his voice across the ridge. "For the first time in 1,000 years, the heirs of the Eclipse pack run beneath the moon." The pack answered with a single, thunderous howl. Draven and I shifted together. Seamless, perfect, our wolves now permanently threaded with each other's colors. Nova and Kai shifted in our arms and landed on 4 tiny, wobbly paws between us. Their little howls were high and fierce, already matching the deeper tones of their father. The bond flared wide open, wrapping all 4 of us in golden light. We ran. Draven and I stayed slow on purpose, letting the twins lead. Nova bounded ahead first, her tiny silver form leaping snowdrifts like she'd been born for this. Kai followed, stronger and steadier, nipping playfully at her heels. Every time one stumbled, the other was there, brother and sister already protecting each other the way Draven and I had learned to protect the pack. The entire Eclipse pack ran behind us in perfect formation, their howls weaving a lullaby around our children. Riker ran at the front with Kale, both of them laughing through the bond as the twins tried to outrun them. Halfway up the highest ridge, something ancient stirred. The mountain itself answered. The snow beneath our paws began to glow. Ancient runes, the same ones from the moon pool, rose through the ice and lit up in silver and gold, forming a perfect circle around the twins. Nova and Kai skidded to a stop in the center, eyes wide. The light swirled around them, lifting their tiny bodies gently into the air for one breathless moment. The mountain was naming them. A single, deep note resonated through the stone. The same note I had sung the night I broke the curse. It wrapped around my children like a blessing. When the light faded, 2 new runes had burned themselves into the ridge forever. One shaped like a star for Nova, one shaped like a shield for Kai. The future alphas had been claimed by the mountain itself. Draven and I shifted back to human, dropping to our knees in the snow as the twins tumbled into our arms. Still in wolf form, still glowing faintly, tears streamed down my face. Draven's voice cracked as he pressed his forehead to mine. "They're not just ours anymore," he whispered. "The mountain has spoken. Nova and Kai are the future, and we get to watch them grow into it." The pack howled louder than ever, a song of pride, of legacy, of forever. I held my babies close, feeling their tiny hearts beating in perfect rhythm with mine and Draven's through the bond. 4 hearts. 1 family. 1 pack. The war was a memory. The curse was gone. And tonight, under the stars that had witnessed our beginning, the mountain itself had promised our children a future brighter than any prophecy could have dreamed. Chapter 22. The nursery glowed with soft silver light from the runes embedded in the walls. 6 months had turned into 9, and our twins were no longer tiny miracles. They were curious, fearless, and already ruling the hearts of every wolf in the Eclipse pack. Nova and Kai sat in the center of the moon-carved rug, silver and chestnut fur flickering across their skin as they practiced shifting back and forth. Draven and I watched from the doorway, his arm around my waist, the bond humming with quiet contentment. "They're getting faster," I whispered, leaning into him. Yesterday Kai shifted 3 times in 1 minute. Draven's low chuckle vibrated against my back. "And Nova sang her first note yesterday. The healers say she calmed a sick pup just by humming. They're already more powerful than we were at their age." Nova looked up first, her golden eyes, exact copies of her father's, locking onto mine. She pushed herself up on wobbly legs, took 1 step, then another, and reached for me with chubby hands. "Mama," she said. The word stopped the world. Clear. Perfect. Spoken in a tiny voice that carried the same melodic ring as my moon song. Kai immediately followed, crawling forward then standing on sturdy legs beside his sister. "Papa." Draven's breath caught. His hand tightened on my waist. Through the bond, I felt his heart slam against his ribs. All love, and something deeper, as the mountain itself had just spoken. But the words weren't just words. The moment they left the twins' mouths, the runes on the nursery walls flared to life. Silver light poured outward in waves, racing through the stone corridors of the entire mansion. Every wolf in the pack felt it at once. A young pup in the healing wing, one who had been born with a lingering trace of the old curse, suddenly sat up and laughed for the first time in his life. The light had healed him completely. In the training hall, warriors who had carried battle scars for decades watched their wounds fade to faint silver lines. And in the heart of the mountain, the moon pool itself rippled and sang. A new song, one that belonged to our children. The bond between Draven and me exploded with pure joy. We dropped to our knees in front of Nova and Kai. I gathered Nova into my arms while Draven lifted Kai against his chest. Both twins were glowing faintly, their eyes bright with the same ancient power I had felt in the moon pool. "They didn't just speak," I whispered, tears slipping down my cheeks. "They commanded the mountain. They healed the last traces of the curse that even I couldn't reach." Draven pressed his forehead to Kai's tiny one, then looked at me with eyes shining brighter than the runes. "Our children are the new beginning, Liora. Not just heirs. They're the living proof that the old prophecies are gone forever. The moon singer's power didn't end with you. It evolved. It became ours. All of ours." The pack began to gather outside the nursery door, drawn by the light and the bond. Kale and Riker knelt first, heads bowed in reverence. Then the entire corridor filled with wolves dropping to one knee. Not to their alpha, not to their Luna, but to the 2 tiny children who had just spoken the future into existence. Nova reached out and touched my cheek with one small hand. A spark of pure moonlight passed between us. "Mama. Sing." I laughed through happy tears and began the soft lullaby I used to sing to them every night. The moment my voice joined theirs, the light in the walls brightened even more. Kai joined in with a tiny howl that somehow harmonized perfectly with my melody. The mountain answered. Every wolf in the pack suddenly felt lighter. Scars faded. Old grief lifted. The last shadows of the feral curse that had lingered in a few distant corners of the territory burned away in silver fire. Draven pulled all 3 of us into his arms, his wife, his daughter, his son, and held us like the entire world was contained in that single embrace. "They spoke their first words," he said, voice rough with emotion. "And the mountain listened. Our children just healed an entire pack with 2 simple syllables." I looked up at him, smiling through tears. "They're not just ours anymore. They belong to every wolf on this mountain now." Nova and Kai snuggled closer, their tiny hearts beating in perfect sync with ours through the bond. 4 hearts. 1 family. 1 pack. 1 future. The words had been spoken. The power had been revealed. And the Eclipse pack would never be the same again. Chapter 23. The twins turned one on the night the stars themselves came down to celebrate. The entire Eclipse pack had gathered in the vast moonlit meadow below the sacred ridge. The same meadow where Draven and I had first run as true mates. Lanterns floated in their thousands, turning the snow into a sea of silver and gold. Tables groaned under feasts, pups chased each other in wolf form, and every wolf wore their finest ceremonial cloaks threaded with the new chestnut and silver colors that now represented our family. Nova and Kai sat on a raised platform of white marble at the center, dressed in tiny silver tunics embroidered with runes. They were no longer babies. They were bright-eyed one-year-olds who could already walk, shift, and speak in full sentences that carried power. Nova's chestnut curls bounced as she clapped at the floating lanterns. Kai's golden eyes, exact replicas of his father's, scanned the crowd with quiet alpha confidence even at this age. Draven stood beside me, one arm around my waist, the other resting protectively on the small swell of my belly where our third child was just beginning to grow. The bond between us hummed with pure joy. "They're ours," he whispered, voice thick. 1 year ago, they were born in fire and moonlight. Tonight, the mountain itself wants to honor them. The pack fell silent as the moon reached its peak. Then the ground began to glow. Ancient guardians rose from the stone, not wolves but something older. Towering spectral figures formed of moonlight and mountain rock, their eyes glowing the same silver as the moon pool. They had no faces, only shifting light, but every wolf felt their presence. The original spirits who had guarded the eclipse territory long before the curse was born. The pack dropped to their knees as one. The guardians, 12 in total, moved through the crowd like living constellations until they stood in a perfect circle around our children. Nova and Kai didn't cry. They didn't hide. Instead, both twins pushed to their feet on chubby legs and looked up at the ancient beings with wide, fearless eyes. The tallest guardian knelt first. One by one, all 12 ancient spirits lowered themselves until their glowing foreheads touched the snow at the twins' feet. A single, resonant note echoed through the mountain. The same note I had sung the night the curse broke, but deeper, older, filled with centuries of waiting. The bond surged between Draven and me so powerfully that every wolf in the meadow felt it. Through our connection, I saw flashes of the future. Nova and Kai standing side by side as young alphas, leading the pack into a new golden age, their power protecting not just our territory but every pack on the continent. The tallest guardian rose and placed a single silver runestone into each twin's tiny hands. The stones glowed and sank into their palms, becoming part of them forever. Then the guardians spoke as one, their voices like the mountain itself given sound. "These are the moonborn, the first children born of the new age. The curse is gone. The old ways are ended. We bow to the future." The spirits dissolved back into moonlight and stone, leaving the meadow glowing brighter than any lantern. The pack erupted in howls of pure celebration. Draven dropped to one knee in front of our children, tears shining in his golden eyes. He pulled Nova and Kai into his arms, then reached for me. I joined them on the marble platform, our little family wrapped together under the stars. 1 year old, he whispered against my hair, voice breaking with emotion. And already the ancient guardians of the mountain kneel before them. "You gave us this, Liora. You gave the world this." I kissed him softly, our twins giggling between us as they clutched their new runestones. "No," I answered, smiling through happy tears. "We did this together. And tonight the mountain just promised our children will never walk alone." The pack's howls rose into a song that shook the stars. The twins' first birthday had become legend before the night was even over. And the future, bright, powerful, and filled with love, had officially begun. Chapter 24. The twins turned 3 on the night the stars decided to play. The sacred meadow had been transformed into a wonderland of floating silver lanterns, glowing rune cakes, and mountains of presents wrapped in moonlight silk. The entire eclipse pack had come. Thousands of wolves laughing, shifting, and chasing pups under a sky so clear it felt like the moon had invited every star to the party. Nova and Kai stood at the center in matching silver tunics embroidered with tiny wolves. At 3 years old, they were already legends in their own right. Nova with her mother's melodic laugh and my chestnut curls, Kai with his father's quiet strength and golden eyes. They could shift faster than any adult, sing healing notes together, and command the mountain's light with a single word. Draven and I watched from the edge of the circle, his arm around my waist, our third child. A baby girl we had named Celine, sleeping peacefully against my chest in a silver sling. The bond between the four of us, soon to be 5, hummed with pure joy. "Ready for the game?" Draven called out, voice warm with laughter. The twins nodded eagerly. Their favorite birthday tradition, wish run. They would close their eyes, make a silent wish, and run as fast as they could across the meadow. The pack would chase them with glowing orbs, turning the meadow into a living constellation. Nova squeezed her eyes shut first. "I wish." Kai grabbed her hand. Together, they ran. Their tiny legs carried them faster than any 3-year-old should move. Laughter trailed behind them like silver bells. The pack cheered and began to follow with floating lights. Then Nova tripped over a hidden root. Kai tried to catch her. Their hands clasped at the exact same moment. And the bond between the 3 of us, mother, father, and children, surged without warning. A rift tore open in the air right in front of them. Not a crack. A doorway. Swirling silver and starlight, etched with ancient runes that hadn't been seen since the first moon pool was carved. Through the portal, we glimpsed another realm. Endless floating islands of crystal, spirit wolves made of pure moonlight, and guardians even older than the ones who had bowed at their first birthday. The twins froze, eyes wide. Nova's voice came out small but clear. "We opened it." Kai looked back at us, golden eyes shining with wonder instead of fear. "It heard our wish." The pack went silent. Every wolf dropped to their knees as the ancient spirits on the other side turned toward the portal and bowed. Not to Draven or me, but to our 3-year-old children. Draven's hand tightened on mine. Through the bond one felt his awe and the smallest flicker of protective fear. "They didn't just shift the mountain this time," he whispered. "They opened the spirit realm. The place the old text said only the first moon singer and her alpha could ever enter." I stepped forward, Celine still sleeping against me, and took the twins' hands. The moment our family touched, the portal stabilized. No longer wild, but calm, waiting, inviting. Nova looked up at me with those bright eyes. "Mama, can we go say hello?" Kai squeezed my other hand. "They want to meet us." Draven knelt beside them, his massive frame somehow gentle. "Not tonight, little ones. But soon. You just proved something the mountain has been waiting 1,000 years to see." He looked at me, golden eyes full of wonder. Our children didn't just inherit the power. They evolved it. The spirit realm is open to the Eclipse pack again, because of them. The portal hummed softly, as if agreeing, then gently closed on its own, leaving a single glowing rune floating in the air above the twins. It sank into the ground between them, marking the meadow forever as the new gateway. The pack's howls rose, not in fear, but in celebration, so loud the stars seemed to dance. Draven pulled all of us close, me, Nova, Kai, and tiny Celine still dreaming between us. His voice was thick with emotion as he pressed a kiss to each of our heads. 3 years old, he whispered. And already opening doors between worlds. You didn't just give me a family, Liora. You gave the mountain a future no one ever dared to dream. I smiled through happy tears, watching our children chase the last floating lanterns across the meadow, their laughter echoing like the first moon song ever sung. The war was ancient history. The curse was only a story told to pups. And on their 3rd birthday, our twins had accidentally invited the stars themselves to come play. The future wasn't coming. It was already here, running across the meadow on 2 tiny pairs of feet, holding hands, and laughing under a sky that now belonged to them. Chapter 25. The meadow still glowed from the twins' birthday lanterns when the spirit realm called their names. It happened at twilight the next evening, the quiet hour when the moon and sun shared the sky. Nova and Kai were playing in the same meadow, chasing glowing orbs with their little sister Celine toddling behind them on chubby legs. Draven and I sat on the marble platform watching, our 3rd child nestled between us, the bond warm and content after the chaos of the party. Then the air shimmered. The same silver rift the twins had accidentally opened the night before reappeared. Not wild this time, but deliberate, framed by ancient runes that pulsed like heartbeats. A single guardian stepped through, taller than the others, formed entirely of moonlight and starfire, its voice echoing like the mountain itself speaking. Nova voice. Kai Voss, children of the Moon Singer and the Shadow Alpha. The spirit realm calls you by name. The twins froze mid-chase. Celine hid behind Nova's leg. Every wolf in the meadow dropped to their knees without being told. Draven's hand tightened on mine. Through the bond, I felt his instant protective surge. Fierce love mixed with awe. They're only 3, his thoughts whispered to me. They're still ours. The guardian knelt so its glowing face was level with the children. You opened the door between worlds. Now we offer you a choice no child has ever been given. Nova tilted her head, chestnut curls bouncing. What choice? The guardian's voice softened. You may stay in the mortal world as future alphas, grow love, lead the Eclipse Pack, and one day rule beside your parents. Or, you may step through with us now. Become eternal guardians of the moon. Your power would protect every pack on Earth forever. You would never age. Never know pain. But you would leave this world, and your family behind. Kai's golden eyes flashed. He stepped in front of his sister and little Celine, tiny fists clenched. We don't want to leave Mama and Papa. Nova looked back at us, her bright eyes filling with tears for the first time I had ever seen. We want to stay. We want to run with the pack. We want to sing with Mama and fight beside Papa. The guardian was silent for a long moment. The entire meadow held its breath. Then the spirit smiled, a ripple of starlight across its face. That is the answer we hoped for. The choice of love over eternity. Because you chose family, the spirit realm grants you its greatest gift. It extended 2 glowing hands. Nova and Kai placed their small palms in them without fear. Silver light poured into them, not taking anything away, but adding. When the guardian released them, the twins' eyes glowed brighter. Their small bodies shimmered with new power. The bond between all 5 of us, soon 6, flared so brightly the entire pack felt it. You are now anchors, the guardian said. The bridge between the mortal world and the spirit realm. Your voices will heal any curse. Your presence will open safe paths for lost souls. And when you are grown, you will lead not just one pack, but every pack on Earth into a new golden age. The portal began to close, but the guardian left one final gift. A single silver rose that floated between Nova and Kai before dissolving into their chests. You will never be alone, it whispered. The stars will always answer when you call. The rift vanished. The meadow erupted in howls of wonder and joy. Draven pulled me to my feet, and we ran to our children. Nova and Kai flew into our arms, laughing and crying at the same time. Their new power humming against our skin like warm starlight. Celine toddled over, and wrapped her tiny arms around all of us. Draven's voice was raw as he held us together. You chose us, he whispered to the twins. You chose family. And the spirit realm bowed to that choice. I kissed each of their foreheads, tears streaming down my face. My brave, beautiful moonborn. You didn't just open a door, you opened the future for everyone. The pack's howls rose into a song that shook the stars, a song of pride, of legacy, of unbreakable love. The twins had been offered eternity. They chose us instead. And in doing so, they became the bridge that would carry the entire world into the light. Chapter 26. The twins turned 5 on the day the world changed forever. 5 years had passed since the curse broke, 5 years of peace, laughter, and the slow, beautiful work of rebuilding. The Eclipse Pack had grown stronger than ever, but today was bigger than one pack. Today the mountain would witness the first united packs in 1,000 years. The sacred ridge had been transformed into a throne of living stone. Silver banners from every allied pack fluttered in the wind. Eclipse black and silver, Shadowfang now cleansed to deep crimson and gold, and dozens of smaller territories that had once lived in fear. Thousands of wolves stood shoulder to shoulder, eyes bright with hope instead of red curse light. Nova and Kai stood at the center of it all, no longer little pups but 5-year-old miracles who already moved with the grace of future alphas. Nova's chestnut curls were braided with silver threads, Kai's black hair tied back like his father's. Both wore simple silver circlets that glowed with the power they had earned from the spirit realm. Draven and I stood behind them, our hands resting on their small shoulders. Celine, now too, clung to my leg in her tiny silver dress, watching everything with wide golden eyes. The bond between the 5 of us sang steady and warm. A family woven tighter than any prophecy could have predicted. Kale's voice rang out across the ridge. Today we crown not just one Alpha and Luna, but the first High Alpha and High Luna of the United Packs. The ones who broke the curse. The ones who opened the spirit realm. The ones who chose love over power. The crowd fell silent. Draven stepped forward first, tall and proud in his black and silver ceremonial armor. He lifted the ancient crown, forged from the same runes that had sealed the moon pool, and placed it gently on my head. My Luna, he said, voice carrying to every wolf. My wife. My equal. The moon singer who saved us all. Then he turned to the twins. Nova and Kai knelt together without being told. Side by side, their small hands clasped. Draven placed a smaller circlet on each of their heads. Silver for Nova, threaded with gold for Kai. Rise Nova Voss and Kai Voss, he said, voice thick with emotion. Future High Alphas of the United Packs. The mountain has already named you. Today the pack names you too. The twins rose. The moment they stood, the runes on the ridge ignited. Silver light poured outward in waves, racing across every banner, every wolf, every territory connected to the mountain. Through the bond one felt it. Packs far beyond our borders, suddenly feeling the same peace, the same strength, the same hope. The spirit realm answered. The air shimmered. Guardians stepped through shimmering portals, not to bow this time, but to stand as witnesses. They placed their glowing hands over the twins' heads, granting one final blessing. The ability to open safe paths between all packs, to heal any lingering curse, to lead as one. The entire ridge erupted in howls that shook the stars. Draven pulled me close, our children between us, Celine now in his arms. Through the bond, his love crashed over me like a wave, fierce, grateful, eternal. You did this, he whispered against my hair. You turned a kidnapped human into a High Luna. You turned 2 tiny babies into the future of our world. I smiled through happy tears, looking at Nova and Kai as they stood tall beside us, their small hands still clasped, their eyes glowing with the power they had chosen to use for good. No, Ian Shuarat Shufli. We did this together. And today the packs are no longer divided. They're one family just like ours. The howls rose into a song older than the mountain. A song of unity, of healing, of forever. 5 years old. And our children had just helped crown a new era. The war was ancient history. The curse was a bedtime story. And under the silver moon that had once demanded sacrifice, a family stood together. High Alpha, High Luna, and the 3 moonborn heirs who would carry the light into every corner of the world. Chapter 27. The twins turned 10 on the night the stars came home to stay. A decade had passed since the curse shattered, and the Eclipse Pack. Now the heart of the United Packs had grown into something the old prophecies could never have imagined. The mountain thrived. Pups played without fear. Every full moon was a celebration instead of a warning. Nova and Kai stood at the center of the sacred meadow on their 10th birthday. No longer small miracles but tall, graceful 10-year-olds who already carried themselves like the high alphas they would one day become. Nova's chestnut curls were braided with silver threads that caught the moonlight. Kai's black hair was tied back exactly like his father's. Both wore simple silver circlets that glowed with the power the spirit realm had given them at 3. Draven and I watched from the marble platform. Our hands clasped. Celine, now 7 and already a fierce little warrior, bouncing between us. Our 4th child, a baby boy we had named Orion, slept peacefully in my arms. The pack had gathered in their thousands, but tonight belonged to the twins. Nova looked up at the sky, golden eyes shining. We've been practicing, she said quietly, her voice already carrying the melodic ring of a moon singer. Kai and we think we're ready. Kai nodded, taking his sister's hand. The spirit realm asked us to open the door permanently. Not just for a moment. Forever. So every pack can reach the guardians. So no one ever feels alone again. Draven's grip tightened on mine. Through the bond, I felt his pride, his awe, and the smallest flicker of protective worry only a father could have. They're only 10, his thoughts whispered. But they're already changing the world. I squeezed back. They're ours. And they're ready. The twins stepped forward together. They didn't need words this time. They simply closed their eyes, clasped hands and sang. It wasn't the desperate song that had broken the curse. It was something new. A duet of pure starlight, Nova's voice soaring high and melodic, Kai's grounding it with deep, steady power. The bond between all of us flared so brightly that the entire meadow lit up. The air tore open. Not a rift this time. A permanent archway of silver and moonlight framed by living runes. Through it, we could see the spirit realm in all its glory. Floating crystal islands, eternal guardians, rivers of starlight. The portal hummed with gentle, endless power. Safe, stable, and open to any wolf who carried a pure heart. The ancient guardians stepped through first, bowing deeply to Nova and Kai. "You have done what no one has done in 10,000 years," the tallest one said, voice like the mountain breathing. "You have made the realms one. Every pack on earth now has a direct path to us. Healing, guidance, protection. The age of isolation is over." The pack erupted in howls that shook the stars. Draven pulled me close, Celine and Orion between us, as Nova and Kai turned back to us with shining eyes. "We did it for everyone," Nova said softly. "But mostly, we did it so we never have to say goodbye to you." Kai looked straight at his father. "The portal stays open forever now. And so do we." Draven dropped to one knee in front of them, tears in his golden eyes. He gathered both twins into his arms, then reached for the younger ones and me. Our entire family stood wrapped together under the new archway of starlight. "You didn't just open a portal," he whispered, voice breaking with emotion. "You opened eternity for every wolf who will ever live. And you chose to stay with us while doing it." I kissed each of their foreheads, tears streaming down my face. My brave, beautiful children. 10 years old, and already the bridge between worlds. The pack's howls rose into a song that echoed through the permanent portal, and into the spirit realm itself. A song of unity, of healing, of forever. The twins had turned 10. They had opened the doorway to eternity. And the entire world, mortal and spirit alike, would never be divided again. Chapter 28. The twins turned 15 on the day the world asked them to lead it. 15 years had passed since the curse broke, and the United Packs had grown into a thriving nation spread across 3 mountain ranges. The permanent spirit realm portal stood as a shining arch in the center of the meadow, a constant reminder that no pack would ever walk alone again. Pups played in its silver light. Elders sought guidance from the guardians. The Age of Fear was a story told around campfires. Nova and Kai stood at the entrance of the Grand Council Hall. A magnificent structure built from living mountain stone and starlight runes. At 15, they were no longer children. Nova had grown into a graceful young woman with my chestnut curls and her father's golden eyes, carrying quiet strength and a voice that could heal or command with a single note. Kai stood tall beside her, broad-shouldered and steady, already every inch the alpha he was born to be. Draven and I watched from the raised dais inside the hall. Our hands clasped, Celine, now 12 and fierce as a storm, and Orion, now 8 and already shifting faster than his siblings, beside us. The bond between our family of 6 hummed with pride and a touch of bittersweet wonder. The Council of Alphas had gathered. Leaders from every pack, young and old, all eyes on the twins. Kale's voice rang out, steady and proud. "Today the United Packs do what has never been done in 10,000 years. We pass the first council to the next generation. Nova and Kai Voss, the Moonborn heirs, will lead their first full council as High Alphas in training." The hall fell silent. Nova and Kai stepped forward together, side by side, their silver circlets glowing brighter than ever. They didn't look nervous. They looked ready. Nova spoke first, her melodic voice carrying the same power I had once used to break the curse. "We have grown up knowing the cost of division. We have seen what happens when packs stand alone. Today we begin the work of making sure that never happens again." Kai continued, his voice deep and steady like his father's. "The spirit realm is open. The portals are stable. But unity is not a gift. It is a choice we make every day. We will listen to every pack. We will protect every wolf. And we will never forget that we stand here because our parents chose love over fear." The Alphas rose as one and bowed, not to Draven or me, but to the 15-year-old twins who had just taken their place at the head of the table. Through the bond, I felt Draven's heart swell with emotion so deep it brought tears to my eyes. "They're ready," he sent to me. "Our babies are leading the world now." I squeezed his hand. "They're still ours. And they're magnificent." The first council began. Nova and Kai listened as each alpha spoke. Old grievances, new dreams, requests for healing portals in distant territories. They answered with wisdom far beyond their years, Nova offering songs of peace, Kai offering plans of protection. When a young alpha from the far northern range asked for help rebuilding after a harsh winter, the twins didn't hesitate. "We will open a new portal there tomorrow," Nova said softly. "And we will run with you until every den is warm," Kai added. The bond between Draven and me sang with overwhelming pride. Our children weren't just ruling, they were healing, uniting, and loving the packs the same way we had learned to love each other. When the council ended hours later, the twins turned to us. Nova's eyes shimmered with happy tears. Kai's smile was pure alpha confidence. "Did we do okay?" Nova asked, suddenly 15 and vulnerable again. Draven pulled both of them into his arms, then reached for me, Celine, and Orion until our entire family stood wrapped together in the center of the hall. "You didn't just do okay," he said, voice thick. "You did what your mother and I dreamed of 15 years ago. You took the future we fought for, and made it even brighter." I kissed each of their foreheads, tears streaming down my face. My brave, brilliant children. 15 years old. And already the leaders the world has been waiting for. The pack outside began to howl in celebration. A song that echoed through the permanent portal, and into the spirit realm itself. The twins had turned 15. They had led their first council. And the United Packs had just taken their first true steps into a golden age that would last for generations. Chapter 29. The twins turned 18 on the night the blood moon returned. 18 years had passed since Draven marked me in the forest. 18 years of peace, growth, and a love that had rewritten every ancient law. The United Packs now spanned half the continent, the permanent spirit realm portal a shining beacon in the heart of the mountain. Nova and Kai had grown into the leaders the world had been waiting for, strong, wise, and deeply loved. Tonight, the sacred ridge was lit only by the crimson glow of the blood moon. The same moon that had once watched Draven steal me away. Lanterns were dark. The pack stood in reverent silence. Everyone knew what this night meant. Nova and Kai stood at the center of the ridge, no longer children but young adults ready to choose their own paths. Nova's chestnut hair fell in loose waves down her back, silver circlet gleaming. Kai stood tall beside her, broad-shouldered and steady, his golden eyes reflecting the moon like his father's once had. Draven and I watched from the marble platform, our hands clasped tight. Celine, now 15, and Orion, now 11, stood beside us, the bond between our 6 hearts humming with quiet anticipation. Nova spoke first, voice clear and melodic like mine. 18 years ago our parents stood under this same blood moon. One was taken. One was marked. Tonight we stand here by choice, and we choose love the same way they did. Kai took his sister's hand for a moment, then released it. The spirit realm has shown us our mates. They are not from our pack. They are from the far northern range in the eastern forests. Wolves who have waited their whole lives for us. The crowd parted. 2 young wolves stepped forward. A graceful young woman with midnight hair and storm gray eyes, and a tall, steady young man with warm brown hair and kind amber eyes. Both knelt instantly before Nova and Kai. The bond between the 4 of them ignited the moment their eyes met. Visible silver threads of light weaving through the air exactly as they had between Draven and me all those years ago. Nova reached out and gently lifted the young woman's chin. "Liora," she said softly, the name coming to her through the new bond. "You are mine." Kai extended his hand to the young man. "Torin, you are mine." The blood moon flared brighter as the 4 new mates touched for the first time. Sparks, the same beautiful, electric sparks I had once feared, exploded across the ridge. The pack howled in joyous celebration. Draven pulled me into his arms, tears shining in his golden eyes. Through the bond, I felt his heart overflow, pride, nostalgia, and a love so deep it stole my breath. "They're doing it right," he whispered against my hair. They're choosing, not being forced. They're writing their own story under the same moon that once tried to destroy ours. I smiled through happy tears, watching Nova and Kai pull their mates close, the four of them glowing with new bonds that mirrored our own. Celine and Orion cheered loudly, already dreaming of their own futures. Nova turned to us, eyes shining. Mama, Papa, we chose them because we saw how you chose each other. Against all odds. Against every prophecy. We wanted that kind of love. Kai's voice was steady. The blood moon doesn't demand sacrifice anymore. It celebrates choice. Draven stepped forward and embraced both twins, then welcomed Liora and Torin into the family with the same fierce protectiveness he had once shown me. I joined them, wrapping my arms around all four new mates. The pack's howls rose into a song that echoed through the permanent portal and into the spirit realm. A song of new beginnings, of chosen love, of cycles completed and renewed. Under the blood moon that had once torn our lives apart, two new couples stood hand in hand. The old story was a legend. The new story had just begun. Chapter 30. The night before Nova and Kai left to found their own packs, the family ran together for the last time as six. Draven and I stood on the sacred ridge under a gentle silver moon, our hearts heavy with the kind of joy that aches. Celine, now 12, and Orion, now 8, bounced with excitement beside us. Nova and Kai stood hand in hand with their mates Liora and Torin, all four of them glowing with the fresh bonds that had formed under the blood moon. No one spoke at first. We didn't need to. The bond between the six of us sang loud enough for the entire mountain to hear. A single, perfect harmony of love, pride, and the bittersweet knowledge that tomorrow our family would grow beyond these peaks. Draven's golden eyes met mine. One last run, he sent through the bond, voice thick with emotion. As six. Before the world claims them. I nodded, tears already pricking my eyes. We shifted together. 6 wolves took form under the moonlight. Draven's massive silver-black form threaded with my chestnut streaks, my sleek chestnut silver wolf beside him, Nova and Kai now full-grown and radiant with the same blended colors, Ilera's graceful storm-gray wolf, Torin's steady brown and gold, and our younger two. Celine's fierce little silver pup, and Orion's energetic black and chestnut one. The bond wove us into one living constellation. We ran, paws silent on the snow, wind singing through our fur. The entire family moving as one for the final time. Nova and Kai led the way, leaping ridges they had once toddled across as pups. Celine and Orion chased their older siblings with joyful yips. Liora and Torin ran beside them, already part of us. Draven and I brought up the rear, our wolves brushing shoulders with every stride, the bond pulsing with memories of every run we had ever taken. From the desperate escape attempts to the wedding run to the night we first felt the twins shift inside me. Halfway up the highest peak, the twins slowed. Nova turned her silver wolf head toward me, golden eyes shining with unshed tears. Thank you for choosing to stay, she sent through the family bond. Thank you for teaching us what love really is. Kai pressed his muzzle to Draven's shoulder. We're not leaving you. We're just extending what you built. The younger ones nuzzled against us, Celine and Orion whining softly as they realized this was goodbye for now. Draven's deep alpha voice filled every mind. You will always be ours. No matter how far your packs take you. The bond doesn't end at borders. It never will. We held together. 6 voices rising as one. A song that echoed through the permanent spirit realm portal, and across every united territory. The mountain answered. The stars seemed to lean closer. The guardians flickered in the distance, bowing once more to the family that had changed everything. When the howls faded, we shifted back to human. Draven pulled all 6 of us into one massive embrace on the ridge. His arms long enough to hold his wife, his grown children and their mates, and the 2 youngest who still fit perfectly against his chest. I was the alpha who stole a human once, he said, voice breaking. Tonight I stand here as a father watching his children walk into the future they earned. I have never been prouder, or more grateful. I kissed each of them, Nova, Kai, Liora, Torin, Celine, Orion, and finally my husband, tears streaming freely now. Tomorrow you leave to build your own legacies, I whispered. But tonight we are still 6. and we will carry this run in our hearts forever. The moon watched over us as we stood wrapped together, 6 hearts beating as one for the last time under the same sky that had once tried to tear us apart. The run was over. The family was forever. And the world was ready for the next chapter our children would write. Chapter 31. The morning Nova and Kai left to found their own packs dawned clear and golden, the kind of mountain morning that felt like the world was holding its breath. The entire Eclipse pack had gathered at the base of the sacred ridge, where the permanent spirit realm portal shimmered like a second sunrise. Banners of silver and chestnut flew beside the new colors of the northern and eastern territories. Every wolf stood in silence, eyes bright with pride and the ache of goodbye. Nova and Kai stood before us with their mates, Liora and Torin. At 18, they looked every inch the high alphas they had become, tall, confident, their silver circlets glowing with the power they had earned. Nova's chestnut curls caught the light. Kai's golden eyes held the same steady strength as his father's. Draven and I stood at the front of the pack, Celine and Orion beside us, the bond between our 6 hearts wide open and aching. Nova stepped forward first. "We're not leaving you," she said, voice steady but soft. "We're carrying you with us. The portal stays open. Every full moon, we will run back through it, no matter how far our packs grow." Kai took her hand, then reached for ours. "You taught us that family isn't a place. It's a promise. We're keeping that promise." Draven's voice cracked as he pulled all 4 of them into his arms. "I stole your mother once. Today, I give you the world. Go lead. Go love. But know this. The moment you need us, the bond will bring us running." I hugged Nova and Kai so tightly my arms shook. "My brave moonborn, you were born under a blood moon that tried to break us. Today, you leave under a sun that celebrates you. I am so proud of the alphas you've become." Celine and Orion clung to their older siblings, tears streaming. "You'll come back every moon?" Celine asked. "Every single one," Kai promised, ruffling her hair. "And one day you two will run with us too." The pack began to howl, not in sorrow, but in blessing. The portal flared brighter as if the spirit realm itself was opening wider for them. Draven and I watched our grown children step through the silver arch with their mates. For one breathtaking moment, the 4 of them stood on the other side, surrounded by floating crystal islands and ancient guardians who bowed in welcome. Then they turned back, raised their hands, and sent a single shared thought through the family bond. "We love you. See you next full moon." The portal settled into its gentle hum. The ridge felt quieter, but not empty. The bond still connected us all. 6 hearts, now stretching across distances but never breaking. Draven pulled me against his chest, Celine and Orion tucked between us. His voice was rough with emotion as he kissed the top of my head. "They're gone, but they're not lost. They're exactly where they were always meant to be, writing their own stories under the same moon that once brought us together." I smiled through happy tears. "And we'll run together again in 30 days. Every moon. Forever." The pack's howls rose into a song of farewell and promise. Our children had left to build their legacies, but the family they left behind was stronger than ever. Chapter 32. 30 days later, the full moon rose, and the family ran together across 2 realms for the first time. The portal shimmered open at dusk. Draven and I stood ready on our side with Celine and Orion. Nova and Kai waited on the other side with Liora and Torin, their new packs visible in the distance, thriving territories already blooming under their leadership. The moment the moon reached its peak, 6 wolves stepped through the silver arch at the same instant. Draven's massive silver-black form, my chestnut silver, Celine and Orion's excited young wolves. And on the other side, Nova and Kai, larger and more powerful than ever, their mates beside them. The bond exploded with joy so bright the portal flared like a second moon. We ran, not on one mountain, but through both realms at once. Our paths crossed from snow to crystal islands, from pine forests to floating starlight meadows. The guardians watched with glowing smiles as the 6 of us raced side by side, howling a song that echoed through every territory in the united packs. Nova's voice rang through the bond, clear and joyful. "We missed you every single day. But we felt you with us. Every step. Celine and Orion yipped and tumbled between their older siblings, the bond wrapping all of us in unbreakable warmth. Draven nuzzled my neck as we ran, his thoughts soft and full of love. Look what we built, Liora. Not just packs. A family that spans worlds. We ran until the moon began to set, then gathered on a floating crystal island that felt like it had been waiting for us. 6 wolves shifted back to human, laughing and crying as we pulled each other into one massive embrace. Nova rested her head on my shoulder. Every full moon, no matter how big our packs grow, this is our promise. Kai looked at his father with the same steady golden eyes. We're still 6. Always. Draven's voice was thick as he held us all. 6 hearts. 1 family. 1 bond that no distance can break. The moon watched over us as we stood together on the bridge between realms, parents, children, mates, laughing under a sky that now belonged to all of us. The first full moon after they left had become the first of many, and the family that once began with a kidnapping under a blood moon was now running free across worlds. Chapter 33. Celine turned 18 on the night the spirit realm opened just for her. 18 years of watching her older siblings build their packs had turned our fierce little storm into a young woman with my voice and her father's strength. Celine stood at the portal alone that night, silver dress shimmering, her eyes the same bright gold as Draven's. Draven and I waited on our side with Orion and the younger ones, the bond wide open so we could feel every moment. The portal flared brighter than it ever had. Guardians stepped through and knelt before her. Not in greeting, but in offering. You have waited patiently, the tallest guardian said. Your siblings chose their paths. Now the spirit realm offers you yours. Step through and meet the one the stars have waited to give you. Celine looked back at us once, tears shining, but her smile steady. I'll be back before the moon sets. She sent through the bond. I promise. Then she walked into the spirit realm. Draven's hand tightened on mine. Through our bond, I felt his pride and the quiet ache only a father feels when his daughter steps into her destiny. Minutes stretched into eternity. Then the portal brightened again. Celine stepped back through, hand in hand with a young man whose eyes glowed like starfire, and whose presence felt ancient and kind. His name came through the bond instantly. Lyrian, a guardian spirit who had chosen to take mortal form for her. The bond between them ignited the moment they crossed back into our world. Silver threads weaving through the air exactly as they had for Nova and Kai, exactly as they once had for Draven and me. Celine's voice trembled with joy as she brought him forward. Mama. Papa, this is Lyrian. He waited centuries in the spirit realm, because he knew I was coming. Lyrian knelt before us, voice reverent. I chose mortality for her. The stars showed me her light the night the curse broke. I have waited to stand beside the daughter of the moon singer. Draven pulled them both into his arms first. Then I joined Orion and the younger ones crowding close. The entire family bond flared with new light as Celine's mate became one of us. The pack held in celebration as the portal settled, now carrying the warmth of one more soul. Draven looked at me over our growing family, golden eyes shining. Every child we raised has chosen love the way we did. The moon keeps giving us miracles. I smiled through happy tears, watching Celine and Lyrian glow with their new bond. And every miracle keeps choosing us back. Under the same sky that had once watched a kidnapping, another love story had just begun. Chosen freely, blessed by the stars, and welcomed home by the family that started it all. Chapter 34. The blood moon rose again 20 years after it had tried to destroy us. And this time it came only to celebrate. The sacred ridge could barely hold us all. Nova and Kai had returned through the permanent portal with their mates and their first children. 3 beautiful grandchildren who already shifted at will and sang tiny notes that made the stars flicker. Celine and Lyrian brought their twin boys, while Orion, now 13 and taller than his father, stood proudly beside us with his new mate, a gentle wolf from the western range. Draven and I stood at the center, hands linked, our bond stronger than the mountain itself. 6 of us had become 14. I looked around at the faces glowing in the crimson light, and felt my heart swell until it hurt. Nova's daughter, little Lyra, toddled straight to me and reached up with chubby arms. Gran Maluna. I scooped her up, laughing through sudden tears. Kai's son, Rowan, was already climbing Draven like a tree, shifting into a tiny silver-black pup mid-climb. Celine's twins chased Orion's mate in playful circles, their laughter ringing like bells. Draven pulled me close, Lyra between us, his golden eyes shining brighter than the moon. Look what we built, Liora. 20 years ago, I marked you in fear. Tonight, our blood moon is surrounded by the family we chose. The bond between all 14 of us opened wide. A tapestry of love so vast the entire pack felt it. Every wolf on the ridge dropped to one knee in silent reverence, not to us, but to the life we had created together. Nova stepped forward with Liora at her side, their daughter in her arms. We came home for this moon, she said softly, because this is where it all started. And this is where it keeps growing. Kai joined her, Rowan now riding his shoulders. Every full moon, we will bring our packs through the portal. Every year we will run as one family, no matter how many of us there are. Draven's voice carried across the ridge, rough with emotion. 20 years ago, I stole a human photographer. Tonight I stand here with my wife, my children, their mates, and our grandchildren under the same moon. The curse is gone. The fear is gone. Only love remains. I lifted Lyra higher so she could touch the moon's light. We are no longer 6, I said, voice steady. We are 14 tonight. And we will be more tomorrow. This blood moon doesn't demand sacrifice. It celebrates family. The howls that rose were unlike any we had ever heard, layered with adult voices, pup yips, and the high, sweet notes of the youngest grandchildren. The portal flared wide, and the spirit realm guardians stepped through to join us, bowing not to power, but to love. Draven kissed me under that crimson sky, while our grandchildren played at our feet, and our grown children watched with shining eyes. The bond sang between every single one of us, 14 hearts beating as one. The blood moon that had once tried to break us now watched over the largest, loudest, most beautiful family the mountain had ever known. Chapter 35. The grandchildren turned 5 on the night they sang their first true moon song together. 25 years after I had been marked, the meadow was alive with a new generation. Lyra, Rowan, Celine's twins, and Orion's daughter chased each other in wolf form while the adults watched with the same wonder Draven and I once felt watching Nova and Kai. The twins, now 23 and leaders of their own thriving packs, stood beside us with their mates. Celine and Lyrian held hands, Orion and his mate smiling proudly. The bond between all of us had grown so vast it felt like the mountain itself was part of our family. Nova's daughter, Lyra, and Kai's son Rowan stopped playing and looked up at the full moon. Without a word, they clasped hands, just as their parents had done at 3. A single pure note rose from Lyra's tiny throat. Rowan joined her. The other grandchildren fell silent and stepped closer, adding their voices one by one until every child under 5 was singing together. A chorus of silver light that made the permanent portal flare like a second sun. The song wasn't learned. It was inherited. Silver waves rolled across the meadow. Every lingering scar on any wolf vanished. Flowers bloomed instantly in the snow. The spirit realm guardians appeared in the portal, kneeling in awe as the children's voices healed what no adult song had ever touched. Draven dropped to his knees in the grass, pulling me down with him. Tears streamed down his face. "They're doing it," he whispered. "Our grandchildren are singing the next chapter of the moon song. And the mountain is answering stronger than ever." I held him as the children's voices soared higher, their tiny bodies glowing with the same power I once carried alone. Through the bond, I felt every adult heart swell with the same overwhelming love. When the song ended, the grandchildren ran to us, Lyra straight into my arms, Rowan leaping onto Draven's back. Their eyes glowed with the same golden light we all shared now. "Grandma," Lyra said, pressing her small hand to my cheek. "We sang for you. Because you sang first." Rowan looked at Draven. "We sang for Grandpa too. So no one ever has to be afraid again." The entire family, 3 generations strong, came together in one massive embrace. The bond between all of us blazed so brightly that the stars seemed to dim in comparison. Draven's voice was raw as he held his grandchildren close. 25 years ago, I marked your grandmother in fear. Tonight her grandchildren sing the song that proves love always wins. I kissed every small head and then my husband's lips, tears of pure joy on my face. The moon song had passed to the next generation, and it was more beautiful than any of us could have dreamed. Chapter 36. 30 years after the night Draven stole me under a blood moon, our family gathered for the largest run the mountain had ever seen. Nova and Kai had returned with their full packs. Celine and Lyrian brought theirs. Orion and his mate led their territory through the portal. Grandchildren, now teenagers and young adults themselves, ran ahead, shifting and laughing under the silver moon. Draven and I stood at the head of the ridge, hands linked, watching 3 generations of wolves race across the snow. The bond between every single soul, mate, children, grandchildren, and the packs they led, was a living constellation of light. I leaned against my husband's chest, the same chest I had once fought against in terror. 30 years, I whispered. From kidnapped human to High Luna with a family that spans worlds. Draven's arms tightened around me. His golden eyes, still the same ones that had stared at me the night he marked me, were soft with wonder. And I would steal you again in every lifetime. The grandchildren held a new song they had written themselves. The adults joined. The spirit realm guardians appeared in the portal, singing along. The mountain answered with a deep, resonant note that vibrated through every bone. Draven turned me in his arms and kissed me slowly under the moon. The same moon that had once demanded a sacrifice and now only celebrated love. When we broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. We did it, Liora. We broke every rule. We built every future. And we still have forever ahead of us. I smiled up at the man who had once been my captor, and was now my everything. Then let's keep running. We shifted together and leaped forward into the night. Behind us, our children and grandchildren followed. A living river of silver, chestnut, and starlight. The family that began with a mark under a blood moon now ran free across realms, packs, and generations. The story was no longer about survival. It was about forever. And forever had only just begun. Chapter 37. 40 years after the night Draven marked me under a blood moon. The same moon rose again over a ridge that had become legend. The permanent portal stood wider than ever, connecting every pack across the continent. Thousands of wolves gathered. Nova's northern empire with its crystal cities, Kai's eastern strongholds, Celine's spirit-linked realms, Orion's western territories, and the original Eclipse heartland, now the beating center of it all. Banners of silver, chestnut, gold, and every color our family had woven fluttered in the wind. Draven and I stood at the center, older but unbroken, our hands linked the same way they had been since that first desperate night. Our hair carried threads of silver, but our bond burned brighter than the moon itself. Nova and Kai, now in their 30s, stood beside us with their mates and their own grown children. Celine and Lyrian, Orion and his mate. All of them surrounded by the next generation of pups who shifted and sang with effortless power. Our great-grandchildren, tiny wolves with my chestnut curls and Draven's golden eyes, tumbled at our feet, chasing glowing orbs and howling at the crimson sky without a trace of fear. Nova's oldest daughter, Lyra, now 18, stepped forward and took my hand. "Grandma, tell them the story again. The real one. How Grandpa stole you, and you saved the world." I laughed softly and knelt among the little ones, Draven lowering himself beside me the way he always did. The entire ridge fell quiet as I began. Once, a human girl took a photograph under a blood moon, and woke up marked by the most powerful alpha alive. She fought him. She ran from him. She hated him, until she chose him. And together they broke a curse that had lasted 1,000 years. Draven's voice joined mine, low and warm. And every time the moon rose after that, it rose over a family that kept growing, over packs that kept uniting, over a love that never ended. The blood moon bathed us all in soft crimson light, no longer a threat, only a witness. The portal flared gently, and the guardians stepped through to stand among us, their glowing forms bowing not to power, but to the life we had built. Nova rested her head on my shoulder. Kai placed a hand on Draven's back. Celine and Orion gathered their own children close. The bond between every soul present, 3 full generations and the packs they led, sang so loudly the mountain itself seemed to hum in harmony. Draven pulled me into his arms right there in front of everyone, kissing me slow and deeply under the same moon that had once tried to break us. 40 years, he whispered against my lips. And I would steal you all over again in every single one. The howls that rose were layered with adult voices, pup yips, and the high, sweet notes of great-grandchildren who would never know fear. The blood moon smiled down on the largest, loudest, most loving family the mountain had ever known. Chapter 38. On the exact night of our 40th anniversary, Draven took me back to the little cabin where we had shared our first kiss during the blizzard. The storm had long since passed into memory, but the cabin stood exactly as it had. Stone walls warm with blue fire, the narrow cot still there, the window looking out over the same peaks. He had prepared it in secret. Floating silver lanterns, fresh pine boughs, and a simple meal of roasted meat and bread like the one he once forced me to eat when I was his captive. I laughed when I saw it. You remembered. I remember everything, he said, voice low and rough with the years. The fear in your eyes. The way you fought me. The moment you kissed me back and changed both our lives. He dropped to one knee in the center of the room. The same alpha who had once towered over me now kneeling before his wife with the same golden eyes that had once terrified and then saved me. Liora Voss, he said, taking both my hands. 40 years ago I marked you without asking. Tonight I ask again. Will you keep choosing me for the next 40? For every lifetime the moon will give us. Tears slipped down my cheeks as I pulled him up and into my arms. I chose you the night I stopped running. I choose you every morning when I wake up beside you. I will choose you until the stars burn out. He kissed me the way he had in the blizzard, desperate at first, then slow and deep and full of 40 years of shared battles, shared children, shared forever. The bond between us flared brighter than the lanterns, wrapping around us like it had the very first time. When we finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. We did it, Liora. We turned a kidnapping into a legacy. We turned pain into a family that spans worlds. And I still love you more than the day I marked you. I smiled against his lips. And I still love the man who stole me and gave me everything. Outside, the family waited on the ridge, our children, their mates, our grandchildren and great-grandchildren, ready to run with us when we returned. But tonight belonged only to us. 40 years of light. 40 years of love. And the promise of 40 more. Chapter 39. On the night of the blood moon 39 years after I had been taken, Draven and I stood on the sacred ridge and handed the High Alpha and High Luna titles to the next generation. Nova and Kai knelt before us, their mates Alara and Torin beside them. Behind them stood Celine and Lyrian, Orion and his mate, and every one of our grandchildren and great-grandchildren. The permanent portal glowed wide open, the spirit realm guardians watching in silent approval. Draven lifted the ancient silver crown from my head and placed it gently on Nova's. I took the matching crown from his and placed it on Kai's. The runes flared bright as the titles passed, not taken by force, but given with love. You have led beside us, Draven said, voice steady and proud. You have built packs, opened portals, raised children who already sing the moon song. The mountain is yours now. Let it well. Nova's eyes shone with tears as she rose. We will protect what you built. We will love the way you loved. And every full moon we will bring the entire family home through the portal, so no one ever feels alone. Kai placed his hand over his sister's. The legacy isn't power. It's the choice you made when you could have chosen fear. We choose love the same way. The entire ridge, every pack, every generation, dropped to one knee as Nova and Kai stood tall as the new High Alpha and High Luna. The bond between all of us flared so brightly the blood moon itself seemed to dim in comparison. Draven pulled me into his arms as our children took their place at the head of the packs. Through the bond one felt his heart, full, peaceful, complete. We did it, he whispered against my hair. We handed them a world without curses. A family without endings. I smiled up at the man who had once been my captor, and was now my forever. And we still get to watch them write the next chapters, while we keep running together. The howls that rose shook the stars. 3 generations strong, packs united, portals open, love unbroken. The legacy had been handed down. The story that began with a single mark under a blood moon would now be told for centuries by voices that carried our song. And Draven and I, the original Alpha and his human Luna, stood hand in hand, ready for whatever new adventures the next 40 years would bring. The family was eternal, the love was infinite, and the moon would always shine on us. Chapter 40. 50 years after the night Draven marked me under a blood moon. The same moon rose again, softer now, as if it had grown gentle with us. The sacred ridge could no longer hold everyone. The permanent portal stood wide open, and wolves from every united pack poured through from across the continent and the spirit realm itself. Our children, Nova, Kai, Celine, or Ian, now in their 30s and 40s, stood with their mates and their own grown children. Our grandchildren had become young adults leading their territories with the same steady grace we once taught them. And our great-grandchildren, a new wave of tiny moonborn pups, chased glowing orbs across the snow, shifting mid-stride with effortless joy. Draven and I stood at the center in the same place where he had once proposed. My hair was threaded with silver, his too, but our bond burned brighter than ever. The rune ring on my finger still glowed warm against his hand. He turned to me under that silver moon, golden eyes soft with 50 years of memories. "I stole you once," he said quietly, voice carrying only to me through the bond. "Tonight I ask again, will you run with me for the next 50? I laughed through happy tears and took his hand. "I would run with you for 1,000. We shifted together, our wolves still strong, still perfectly matched, silver black threaded with chestnut. The entire family followed. Dozens of wolves now, a living river of love and legacy. Nova and Kai led with their mates, Celine and Lyrian beside them, or Ian and his family close behind. The great-grandchildren bounded ahead, yipping and tumbling, their tiny howls already carrying hints of the moon's song. We ran as one, paws silent on snow that sparkled like the night we first kissed in the blizzard. The bond between every soul, from Draven and me to the youngest pup, wove us into something greater than any single pack. The portal flared as we passed through it, carrying us across realms in one seamless stride. Guardians bowed from floating crystal islands. The mountain itself hummed beneath our paws. Halfway up the highest ridge, Draven slowed and nuzzled my neck exactly where he had marked me all those years ago. "Still mine," he sent through the bond, the same words he had whispered the night he stole me. Only now they were filled with 50 years of chosen love. "Always," I answered, pressing closer. When the moon began to set, we gathered on the ridge where it had all begun. Every generation shifted back to human. The great-grandchildren climbed into our laps, their small hands reaching for the rune ring that had started everything. Draven pulled me against his chest, our family surrounding us in a circle of warmth and light. 50 years, he whispered for all of us to hear. From one frightened human girl to this. A family that spans worlds and generations. I would steal you again in every lifetime. The howls that rose were layered with every voice we had ever loved, adult, pup, and the sweet high notes of the youngest. The blood moon smiled down on the legacy we had built together. We had run our golden anniversary, and the moon promised us many more. Chapter 41. 60 years after I woke up marked in Draven's den, the great-grandchildren held their first council. The meadow was alive with new life. Our original children, now grandparents themselves, watched from the edges with proud, tear-filled eyes. Nova and Kai, Celine and Lyrian, Orion and his mate sat among the elders while the youngest generation, 12 bright-eyed moonborn between the ages of 8 and 12, gathered at the marble table that had once belonged to us. Little Lyra's daughter, now 10, stood at the head with the same chestnut curls and melodic voice I had passed down. Beside her stood Kai's grandson, steady and golden-eyed like his grandfather. They had called the council themselves after a distant pack reported a small lingering shadow of the old curse. I sat beside Draven on the raised platform, our hands linked, the bond between every descendant humming with quiet pride. The permanent portal shimmered behind them, guardians watching in silence. The 10-year-old girl, my great-granddaughter, spoke first, her voice clear and strong. "The old stories say the moon singer once saved the world alone. But we are not alone. We have each other. We have the portal. And we have the family that started it all." Her cousin, the golden-eyed boy, nodded. "We will open a new healing path tonight. Together." They sang. Not one voice, not two. 12 young voices rose as one. A chorus of silver light that made the entire meadow glow. The runes on the table ignited. The portal flared wide. Guardians stepped through carrying ancient crystals that pulse with healing power. The distant pack's shadow vanished in an instant. Every wolf watching felt the last trace of fear burn away. Draven's hand tightened on mine. Through the bond, I felt his heart overflow. They're doing it better than we ever could, he sent. They're not just continuing our legacy. They're making it their own. I leaned against him, tears slipping down my cheeks as the great-grandchildren finished their song and turned to us with shining eyes. Grandma Luna, the little girl said, running to climb into my lap. We sang for you and Grandpa, because you taught us that love is stronger than any curse. The entire family gathered close, 3 full generations plus the youngest ones, wrapping around us in one massive embrace. The bond between all of us blazed brighter than the moon. 60 years later, the great-grandchildren had held their first council, and the moon song had never sounded more beautiful. Chapter 42. 70 years after Draven stole me under a blood moon, the circle completed itself. The sacred ridge was quiet that night. Only Draven and I stood there, older now, silver hair catching the moonlight, but our bond still burning as fierce and bright as the night he first marked me. Our children and grandchildren had returned through the portal for the full moon run, but they had given us this moment alone. The original Alpha and his Luna, back where it all began. The permanent portal shimmered gently behind us. Through it, we could see every pack thriving, every generation singing the songs we once taught them. The guardians watched from the other side, smiling. Draven turned to me, golden eyes still the same ones that had once terrified and then saved me. He took both my hands, the rune ring on my finger warm against his skin. 70 years, he said softly. From the night I took you to the night our great-grandchildren lead their own councils. I would live every single one again, Liora. Every fear, every fight, every moment of love. I stepped closer, resting my forehead against his. And I would choose you every time. The man who stole me, and gave me the entire world. The blood moon rose above us. Soft and golden now, no longer demanding anything. The bond between us opened wide, carrying every memory, every child, every grandchild, every great-grandchild, every pack we had united. We shifted together one last time as just the two of us. 2 wolves, silver black and chestnut silver, ran the ridge alone under the moon that had witnessed our beginning. Paused silent on the same snow where I had once tried to escape. The bond sang between us, pure and eternal, carrying the laughter of our descendants and the promise of all the ones still to come. When the moon began to set, we shifted back and stood together at the edge of the ridge, looking out over the world we had built. Draven pulled me into his arms and kissed me slowly. The same kiss he had given me in the blizzard cabin, only now it carried 70 years of shared life. The circle is complete, he whispered against my lips. From one frightened human to a family that will sing the moon song for generations. I love you, Liora Voss. Yesterday, today, every tomorrow the moon will give us. I smiled up at the man who had once been my captor, and was now my forever. And I love you, Draven. My Alpha. My husband. The heart of everything we built. The portal glowed softly behind us. The mountain hummed beneath our feet. The blood moon smiled down on the 2 souls who had started it all. The story that began with a single mark was now an eternal circle of love. And it would keep turning long after we were gone, carried forward by every voice that still sang our song.